I am now calling the August 28th, 2024 meeting of Santa Rosa City Schools Board of Education to order at 4:06 p.m. We would like to start by taking public comments on closed session items. This includes item B1, public employee appointment and employment. B2, conference with labor negotiator. B3, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation. B4, conference with legal counsel on anticipated litigation. B5, public employee performance evaluation. And B6, close and open session notes. Do we have any blue cards for comment?
President Medina, there are no blue cards.
Okay, seeing none, we will now recess to closed session. We are now reconvening the August 28th, 2024 meeting of the Santa Rosa City Schools Board of Education. If I can have everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for our territorial land acknowledgement. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, please remain standing while Dr. Luz Perez, is it Perez? Does our territorial acknowledgement.
I acknowledge that Santa Rosa City Schools is on the traditional territory and homelands of the Pomo people, traditional territory and homelands of the Coast Miwok people, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. This land acknowledgement calls us to commit to continue to learn how to be better stewards of the land we inhabit. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold Santa Rosa City Schools more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous peoples. Reconozco que las escuelas de la ciudad de Santa Rosa se encuentran en el territorio tradicional y las tierras natales del pueblo Pomo, el tierra tradicional y las tierras natales del pueblo Miwok de la costa, y honro con gratitud la tierra misma y las personas que la han cuidado y administrado a lo largo de las generaciones. Este reconocimiento de la tierra nos llama a comportarnos, a seguir aprendiendo cómo ser mejores administradores y cuidar de la tierra que habitamos. Al ofrecer este reconocimiento de tierras, afirmamos la soberanía indígena y trabajamos para que las escuelas de la ciudad de Santa Rosa sean más responsables ante las necesidades de los pueblos indígenas y nativos. Thank you.
Thank you. You may all be seated now. Thank you. So we will now move on to item C3, report of actions taken in closed session. During closed session, the board took action under item B3 on case OAH 202-407-0139. The vote unanimously approved that case. And on OAH case number 202-407-0448, the board also unanimously approved that case. Under item B4, anticipated litigation, the board voted 4-1 to ratify the settlement agreement with a certificated employee to accept his resignation as of September 30th, 2024. We will now move on to item C4. There is no items that were considered in closed for action in open session. Item C5, board, are there any statements of abstention? Seeing none, we'll move on to item C6, adjustments to the agenda. Any adjustments to the agenda, board or superintendent? Seeing none, we'll move on to our D items, our reports. We'll start off with California School Employee Association, Chapter 75. President Mary Lehman, the floor is yours.
Good evening, President Medina, Governing Board, Superintendent Dr. Morales, Student Board Member, Cabinet members, and everyone listening tonight. A special thank you for the wonderful turnout of our classified staff the teachers, and the community who appreciate our services. Welcome to all the new hires, and again, our returning staff. Welcome back to the 11th day of school. Let's give a special thank you and appreciation to our classified staff who worked all summer to have the schools ready for the returning students and staff. Some painted fresh, lawns and hedges groomed, new desks, all to encourage students to attend. Now we are all continuing our efforts, getting the students back in the swing of school. Yes, even the organizational chart has the students at the top this year. See action item F4. Yes, let's increase attendance this year. I represent some 600 classified employees. The mission of the California School Employee Association is to improve the lives of our members, students, and the community. Why do we always have over 50 classified job openings that are never filled? Why? Is it because the salaries offered are less than one can make at fast food restaurants in Santa Rosa? Did you know that outside contract workers make more working at Santa Rosa City Schools from an outside agency than if they were hired by us? What's wrong with this picture? At the last board meeting, I extended a warm welcome to our new superintendent, Dr. Daisy Morales. We welcomed her focus on belonging in order to embrace, engage, and empower every one of our students and staff. After we received her email this week explaining the current budget challenge faced by Santa Rosa City Schools, including the third interim report and the letter from SCO, see information items J4, we do not feel the belonging. We do not feel embraced. But we will continue to be engaged and empowered to question what happened to being equal partners at the discussion table. Can the students and staff survive without us? We continue to make a difference in the lives of the students we serve. We care. Show us that you care. With courage and compassion in solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, President Lehman. We will now move on to our SRTA report. President Howell, thank you.
Good evening, President Medina, Superintendent Morales, members of the board, members of the community. My name is Catherine Howell, and I am the president of the Santa Rosa Teachers Association, representing about 850 teachers in Santa Rosa City Schools. The only message that I want to give this board tonight is that SRTA stands 100% with and behind our CSEA brothers and sisters. I get it. It's a huge budget problem. There's $20 million that needs to get cut. You're not going to be able to do that on the backs of the CSEA members. You couldn't do it with teachers. You'd have to cut 200 teachers to get rid of that $20 million. Obviously, that's not going to work. And the 200 teachers, the 850 teachers that are left standing in this district and the students that are with them, President Lehman asked, are we going to survive without them? No, we're not. We need the CSEA people. They every single day give us supports that we don't get anywhere else. We come into classrooms that are clean because of them. We come into classrooms where we have instructional aides. We have family engagement and I'm losing the list, but it's out there, right? The campus supervisors and the restorative specialists, and all these people that help us do our jobs on a daily basis. We need them. And we need them to be paid enough that they'll actually keep working here and not just go get a job in fast food. And right now, there's no incentive. We will embrace the CSEA, SRTA embraces our CSEA brothers and sisters, but we need the district to do that too. It's not fair to say, oh, SRTA got a raise and admin got a raise, and we're so sorry, but we can't help you. That's not okay. So there's a lot to figure out. The cost of 1% for the CSEA unit altogether, $600,000-ish, right? And then it's not a lot. It's not a lot. And we're going to have to rearrange our budget completely to figure out how to do that. And part of that rearranging should be at the same time figuring out how to pay our CSEA people a living wage and keeping them employed. Thank you.
Thank you, President Howe. Now bring it to our superintendent for a superintendent's report.
I want to say that I do hear all of you. This is work that we're going to have to do together, coming in to help be able to address, and I'm going to be working with the fiscal stabilization, now what used to be called the budget advisory, around how we can together address this shortfall that we need and make sure that our CSEA members do get the raise that they deserve. So know that we are working on it. There's some areas that our hands are tied in terms of when and how we can do it. More to be shared on that, but know that we hear you. And yes, you deserve the raise that you need, and we're committed to finding a way to do that. So in terms of my report, I was able to visit all 24 sites within the first 5 days of school. Now my goal is to visit classrooms and departments, all classrooms and departments before the end of the first semester, to make sure that I'm able to make those connections with all the staff members. We're looking to have the superintendent's cafecitos and do some community and family forums to continue the listening and learning tour within the first 100 days of employment. Last Thursday, I was able to share my story on KBBF. And we're looking to continue to partner with our community partners. I've met with many of our community-based organizations, but I'm also meeting now with a lot of our city counterparts and making those connections. We want to build a community partners consortium to bring together all of the community partners and all of the sites. And so that we are able to see what community partners are serving what schools and how we can synergize what one organization is doing and increase the services at the different school sites. So more on that to come. Thank you all for being here, and we will continue to work together.
Thank you, President Lehman, President Howe, Superintendent Morales. I would first like to begin by reminding everyone that over the next 3 weeks, our schools are holding their annual back to school nights. And I strongly encourage all of our families to attend. It's an annual tradition that really gets to connect families with the teachers and learn more about the services offered at our schools. As our superintendent just mentioned, well, she's had the opportunity to meet with the city manager. So I also wanted to just give an update that now I look forward to the next steps in continuing to work with our counterparts at the city around collaboration with the city of Santa Rosa, and specifically around the SRO and other safety-related issues. With that said, I'd like to say to our classified employees, I want you to know that I, and I'm sure our entire board, recognizes that classified staff are the backbone of our schools. Your dedication and hard work ensure that our students have a safe, a clean, supportive environment in which to learn and grow. I know that our certificated staff, just as President Howe just mentioned it, also appreciates y'all. Our students, our families, they truly appreciate you and all the hard work that you do. We recognize the need for a raise given our area's high and continually increasing cost of living. And I believe that we're committed to doing what we can within our means. But however, as you know, our district is facing significant financial challenges. This was already made clear in our budget that we passed in June. And in July is when Sonoma County Office of Education directed us to adopt a fiscal recovery plan by December 15th of this year. And that's in the information item that President Lehman mentioned. And what this requires us to address is the deficit spending and ensure that we meet minimum reserve levels. This also means that we are currently limited in our ability to increase expenses, including wages, until we have a clear picture of our financial situation. The work of the Schools Consolidation Committee, which began last week, is crucial to shaping that fiscal stabilization plan that we must present to SCO. Unfortunately, all of this is becoming even more complex as we see attendance as the school year has begun. We're down almost 10% from our projections. We don't know exact figures, but on top of the 20 million that President Howe mentioned, could potentially be another 10 million that we need to look at cutting. So I think I would just like folks to understand that our staff, as many of you know, are working diligently to navigate these challenges and find solutions that support you all, our employees, but it's not easy. We have to figure out how we're gonna balance the situation because balance is required in the long term in terms of being able to offer anything. It all has to be balanced out. And we're required to by SCO as presented in that letter. So again, I understand the importance of your work and the need to compensate you fairly. I hope you understand that we're committed to doing right by you while also fulfilling our fiscal and legal responsibilities. I know it's tough and I know it's hard to swallow, but I mean, that's the reality and that's what I just want you all to know from me. So, thank you. And now I'll open it up to board members for comments or reports. Trustee Flores and Trustee De La Torre.
Hello, everyone. So as a school board member, I just want to recognize that I wouldn't be here without the support, the continued support that our CSCA siblings, brothers and sisters did when I ran for this particular office. I recognize some of your faces. I work with you. And I'm also a fellow school employee in the neighborhood district up north. And I want to acknowledge our classified staff for the essential work you play in the success of our students and the operations of our schools, period. I see firsthand the hard work and dedication and heart that you bring to your roles every single day. While I can't discuss the specific of the ongoing negotiations, I want you to know that I deeply, deeply share your values, deeply value your contribution, and I understand the challenges you face at this point. I fully support your efforts and your rights to advocate for fair wages and working conditions. Your work is crucial, and I stand with you. I want you to hear this. I stand with you in your pursuit of a just and equitable contract. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll see. Okay. So thank you for being here.
Trustee De La Torre.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to send a thank you out to all 24 campuses that welcomed me on their sites to start the school year. That's where it all matters. That's where all the magic is. And to find some time to step foot on those campuses and meet the front office staff this year and see some teachers and administrators and see all the smiling faces of the kids that are ready to get this year going. That's where the reward is to be there with those students. None of that is possible without our classified staff, and we're very aware of that. I see you, I hear you, we respect what you're doing, and we're here to work with you and for you. I also want to thank Mary Lehman for inviting me into the warehouse and introducing me to her team and going over what tech services dealt with this summer to once again overcome some insurmountable odds to get equipment ready and prepared and clean and back in the hands of our students, so they have the best equipment possible for their education. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for taking the time to be here tonight and share your concerns and share your passion. It's without your voices, we cannot find direction. So thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunities, and we will continue to work together on this.
Thank you. Any other board member reports? Trustee De La Cruz?
Thank you for coming tonight. I'm a proud daughter of organized labor, recognize the importance of what it is that you do every day in our schools, and especially implementing some of the new changes that we've brought to making sure that you, our staff, our students are safer and more supported by the resources that you provide in such a special way. And I just want to say that I stand with you and that we're working very, very, very hard to make sure that we can address living wages for CSEA and all of its members. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee De La Cruz. And Trustee Sheffield?
Not much more I can add to what other board members have said, but we cannot discuss the specifics of ongoing negotiations, but do hear us, please. I think together we can work through this. I think that we need to have faith in the process. I appreciate everybody coming out because this is your message to us. That means that we need to work with you. And I do respect all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Sheffield. Student board member report. Any reports, board members, Zuniga?
Hi. So in the audience, I see Gary and I see Jessica. Those are two people that I see every day at Santa Rosa High School, and those are two people that are amazing at Santa Rosa High School. Gary and Jessica play a key role in the community that we establish at Santa Rosa High School, the inclusive, equitable, happy community. And so these people are amazing hard workers, and I want to recognize them. Everybody else in this room is as well. And like, so yes, like the other board members have said, I'm committed to working towards what you all are standing for. So this is the second full week of school. It's been fun. I get to go down to LA this weekend with my cross country team, and we're gonna run some crazy races. But I also wanted to encourage that all high schoolers around the district, that Dr. Malice and I have worked on the superintendent student council. And the superintendent student council consists of 5 students from each high school that are diligent and committed and creative, and that want to play a role in their school's future, and the future of the way that their education is in the community. So I see some of my classmates in the crowd, and I encourage you guys to apply so that we can gain more representation from students within our high schools and organize and come together to create meaningful change. Thank you.
Board member Zuniga, could you remind us the deadline to apply for that? No, September
I'll
5th?
help them. September 9th.
9th, okay.
September 9th.
Thank you. I think before I go on, I've just got to say, as a member of the community and someone that really cares about students and education, I think I see in our community, we have a large problem in terms of our priorities. I mean, just looking at Santa Rosa, there's 10 school districts. 2 of those are us. There's 61 schools. 24 of those are us. 22 charter schools. 4 of those are us. I mean, I think there's a lot of inefficiencies. There's a lot of changes in enrollment, people moving with the high cost of living. This problem is going to continue to get worse. And I think collectively as a community, we really need to think about that and look at that, because these problems are going to continue growing as we advance in the years. And it's not just here locally, it's throughout the state, throughout the country. And so priorities really need to change to address a lot of the issues that we're facing. So I just wanted to add that little blurb. But with that said, we're going to move on to public comments on non-agenda items. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on items not currently on the agenda. If you are interested in speaking, please make sure to complete one of these blue cards. I have a few. I will be calling out 3 names at a time. When I call your name, you could go to one of the podiums upstairs. People will have 2 minutes to speak. Before I continue with that, I just want to know, is there anybody that wants to make any comments on our G consent items? That way I could get those pulled. Okay, seeing none, I'll start off with, let's see, and let me just see really quick. Are there any students that submitted a blue card? No? Okay, I was gonna have y'all go first, but first we'll go with Kathy Hayes, followed by Alicia Morley, then Kathy Basson. And then you'll have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name's Kathy Hayes and I work at Elsie Allen High School. Michelle Obama, in a speech she gave last week, said, "All of our contributions deserve to be accepted and valued." I would like this aspiration to be a reality where I work. This is often not the case, and I wish I understood why. It doesn't make any sense to me. I work with a group of individuals who hold schools together. We're on the front lines with community members, parents, students, teachers, and other staff members. We are important to a school's success and perception in the community, but we're often not valued by Santa Rosa City Schools. The latest of many examples is the district making sure that both teachers and management had appropriate pay raises and indicating to all classified staff that they just didn't know if there would be any money available for raises. This is the group of staff members who make the least amount of money. We recently received an email from our new superintendent, welcome, talking about how we needed to band together to work through the challenges of a tough fiscal environment. How do we all pull one direction when one group of employees is consistently not seen or valued? I've been part of work environments who've gotten through some really tough economic times. We were successful because there was a clear sense of shared pain, and each person was valued for the contributions, ideas, and talent they brought to making the organization leaner and more efficient while meeting or serving the organization's mission and values. I don't know how Santa Rosa City School gets to such a place. I will always be ready to help and participate in truly having shared goals and objectives. However, to be truly successful, each classified member must be seen, accepted, and valued by Santa Rosa City Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Next, I have Alicia Morley, followed by Kathy, it's Bassini, and then Rebecca Sullivan.
Good
Alicia.
evening, members of the board and Dr. Daisy Morales. My name is Alicia Morley, and I'm the Counseling Secretary Registrar at Rincon Valley Middle School. I previously worked at Santa Rosa Accelerated Charter School as an instructional assistant supporting 4 classrooms and as a noon duty supervisor. As a dedicated member of the Santa Rosa City Schools classified staff since 2016, I'm here to speak on behalf of classified employees in our district. As you've already know, classified employees are the backbone of our schools. We keep the daily operations running smoothly, support our teachers and administrators, and ensure that our students have a safe and welcoming environment to learn in. However, many of us are struggling to make ends meet due to wages that have not kept pace with the cost of living. Our work is vital to the success of our district, yet we often face financial insecurity and a lack of adequate benefits. One of my coworkers, Amber, wanted to be here tonight, but as a single parent, she must work 2 full-time jobs in order to raise her son in Santa Rosa. Most of us started working at the school district, not for the pay, but because we love our children and all the children at the school and believe in helping them make a better future. We would do anything and everything to support them as they grow. And while our work is deeply rewarding, it should also be fairly compensated. I urge the board to prioritize fair wages and benefits for classified employees. This means not only increasing wages to reflect our contributions, but also providing essential benefits like health insurance and paid leave and retirement plans that recognize our dedication and hard work. I ask the board, please commit to a fair wage increase and better benefits. Let's work together to help create a supportive and equitable work environment that demonstrates how much we value the essential roles that we play in our schools. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Alicia. Next, I have Kathy Bassini, followed by Rebecca Sullivan, followed by Lori Banks.
My name's Kathy Bassini. I'm the admin assistant at Pioneer High School. I have to tell you that I am appalled by the fact that you won't give us a decent proposal. You gave the board, well, the board got 5%, and the administrators and teachers are getting $4,750 each. Yet you won't even offer us anything. This is insulting. Our negotiating committee has been acting in good faith, but as usual, you treat us like second-class citizens. We feel it at work when we're treated with disdain, and now we can't get a decent proposal. Seriously? You need to do better.
Thank you, Kathy. Next, I have Rebecca Sullivan, followed by Lori Banks, followed by Lola Russo.
My name is Rebecca Sullivan. I'm the health tech at Montgomery High School. In my nearly 10 years of working at Montgomery, I've loved everything about my school, including the bad. I've been through numerous lockdowns, helped break up fights, helped students in crisis, and most recently tried to keep my student alive after he was stabbed. If you ask any of my admins about my work ethic, I know that they would say I'm a team player, I roll my sleeves up and get to work wherever I'm needed. That's the mindset of classified staff. We are here to support our schools. Our admin knows our value, but our district and school board obviously don't know our value. If they did, we wouldn't be here tonight fighting for a fair and living wage. You approved your own raises knowing that we were in a deficit, and all you can say to us is you're sorry there's no money and we have to wait for SCO. I wonder how your schools would run if suddenly all classified staff weren't present one day. Think about that. Think about it. Then ask yourselves, have we done enough to show our classified staff that they are valued? As of right now, you have not. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next, I have Lori Banks, followed by Lola Russo, followed by Linda Zavala.
Greetings, Superintendent Morales, board members, cabinet members, community members, but most importantly, my fellow classified staff. My name is Lori Banks, and this is my 10th year with Santa Rosa City Schools. I currently work in the Information and Evaluation Department in the district office. 6 of those years, I'm proud to say I was a MCHS employee. Go Pumas. I'm here on behalf of the 657 classified employees. I understand the importance of a classified employee at the district level and at the site level. When I received the news from my union about the details of the August 16th negotiation meeting, one word came to my mind: equity. Where is it? So let me highlight just a few facts. First and foremost, we are hardworking and dedicated, as you've heard tonight. However, we are the lowest paid employees in the district, which you've also heard tonight. And some are living paycheck to paycheck. So I'd like you to just take my invitation and think about this for just a moment. Registrars and ESOMs, there would be no registered students. Attendance techs, there would be no attendance reports, which equals ADA. IT techs, in this world of technology, where would we be without our computers, our tablets, our iPads, our laptops working and functioning properly? CNS workers, where would the meals be for our students? Custodial and maintenance staff, no one to make our sites clean and functioning properly. Family engagement facilitators that connect with our families and help them navigate what sometimes is a confusing school system. I could go on because there's over 80 classifications, but to highlight how important we are to the district. We talk about engage, embrace, and empower. What you're doing is opposite of empowerment. Tell us that tell us we're the backbone of the district. We want you to show us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Next, I have Lola Rizzo, followed by Linda Zavala, followed by Kristen Colgrove.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Garcia, and I'll be reading this on behalf of Lola Rizzo. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before the board today. I am Lola Rizzo, a classified employee with the district for over 9 years. I am here today to express my astonishment over delayed compensation package. Almost every group except classified staff has a recent compensation package. My salary is the sole salary for my family. This is not a livable income. My rent is about 65% of my income. My household bills are about 29%. I am left with only 6% of my income for my family to use for gas, food, etc. I am an example of many classified employees who struggle with low wages. Disregarding classified staff leaves unembraced, unengaged, and unempowered without a feeling of belonging. Many of our SRCS students have parents who work as classified staff. There is a lot of talk about lifting our students out of being financially disadvantaged as we as a district can affect this ideal by granting a livable wage for our students' parents who work as classified in the district. Santa Rosa City Schools classified staff are the very foundation of this district. We are the front lines that support students, families, parents, other classified staff, teachers, principals, and district administrators. Lastly, let's put our words into action by uplifting the financially disadvantaged classified staff and their students.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth and Lola. Next, I have Linda Zavala, followed by Kristen Colgrave and Jackie Elward.
Greetings, Superintendent Morales and board members. My name is Linda Zabala. I'm the Student Information System Coordinator, and this is my 26th year with the district. Classified staff are the backbone of this district. We are dedicated employees, many of us with decades of service in this district. Despite being the lowest paid and hardest working, we are not receiving a compensation proposal. One that was not only given, but granted to every teacher, administrator, director, superintendent, and board member in the district. SCO warned the budget wouldn't be balanced, yet the district proceeded with raises for certificated staff and management salaries, totaling over $6.3 million. Now we are being told negotiations are delayed for classified staff until at least December because Santa Rosa City Schools is facing a potential state takeover due to a lack of funds. Many of our lowest paid positions, essential to keeping the district functioning, now earn less than the fast food minimum of $20.50 an hour. There are 17 positions and 204 job assignments which fall below the minimum. Any of these roles can make more working at McDonald's. Besides being told that our contributions are valued less than a fast food worker, we are now again reminded how little we are valued in this district compared to those with a certificate. There is a quote that reads, "The most serious failure of leadership is the failure to foresee." If this budget imbalances were truly unforeseen, it reflects a grave failure of leadership. Knowing the raises would worsen an already unmanageable situation, yet proceeding anyway was selfish, reckless, and irresponsible. To now use the dire financial outlook to save money at the expense of the classified staff is a deeper breach of leadership. We do not want to hear that we are appreciated. Show us.
Thank you, Linda. Next, I have Kristen Colgrave, followed by Jackie Elward, followed by Nadine Metellus, I believe it is. Kristen?
Good evening. My name is Kristen Colgrove. I'm the office manager at Hidden Valley Elementary School, and yesterday was my 17th year with this district. Imagine walking into your child's school and finding no one to greet you with a smile, no one to help you enroll your child, no one to tend to your child when they scrape their leg or bump their head, no one to administer medication, no one to clean the toilets at the end of the day, no one to discard the trash, no one to clean up the urine, blood, and the vomit, no one to set up, break down, and clean the lunchroom, no one to assist your child with reading, no one to laminate the placards on their desks, no one to fill the copy machines with paper, no one to issue textbooks and Chromebooks to students, no one to organize the library and reshelve its books, no one to supervise your child at recess and make sure they're safe from strangers and injury, no one to order supplies and inventory them, no one to answer the phone when you call, no one to assist with fire drills or actual emergencies, no one to prepare and serve the food your child needs to nourish their body and their mind, no one to watch your child after school because your workday doesn't end until 5 p.m., but school ends at 2:25, 1:05, or even 11:30, depending on the day. No one to take attendance, pay the bills, or keep the records. No one to prevent truancy. No one to issue payroll checks. No one to assure that the absent teachers have substitutes. No one to post open job positions and process new employees. No one to fix the broken chair, desk, or the air conditioner. No one to mow the lawns, trim the trees and bushes, or rake the leaves. I'm hoping by now you've realized these are just a smattering of the jobs that classified employees do every day in our schools and at our district office. Without these employees, you cannot run a school or a school district. So why is it that classified employees are always the last to be fairly compensated? Why does a game of cat and mouse ensue every time negotiations come around? Why can't you bring yourselves to fairly compensate the backbone of your organization? I'm asking you to do the right thing and offer your employees a fair living wage now.
Thank you, Kristen. Next, I have Jackie Elward, followed by Nadine Metellus, followed by Sandy Rojas.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jackie Elward, a proud CSCA member for the past 10 years. I have stood here before to fight for teachers, administrators, and many more. Today, I stand here to fight for my own people. I heard clearly how you talk about how tight is the budget, but that didn't stop you to give 5% increase to school board members, $4,750 annual increase to each administrator and certificate teachers. Oh, but what essential workers get? Let me think. Nothing. You refuse to offer any raise for classified until at least December without an assurance of fair raise. Even then, we classified refuse to bail you out of your budget rules when we can't afford rent, gas, and even food. Remember, classified are the foundation of education. Without us, nothing will move forward. It is shameful to look at you all in the face when most of the time you talk about inclusion, equality, and equity. Eva Flores, Alegria de la Cruz, Ed Sheffield, before leaving us, we are asking to you to do the right thing ASAP. No more excuses. We talk about fair practices and you guys have championed it. You guys have fight for it. Do the right thing before you go because we are essential and we are the people that hold the school together. Be bold and do the right thing. We are essential.
Thank you, Councilmember Elward. Next, I have Nadine Metellus, followed by Sandy Rojas, followed by Samantha Sharp. Nadine here? Okay, then we'll move on to Sandy Rojas, followed by Samantha Sharp, followed by Alida Perales.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Rojas, and I work at Monroe Elementary School. Welcome, or good evening, board members, community. I'm very nervous. I don't like to speak, but this is an extremely important issue, and that's why I'm here tonight. I want to call your attention to the fact that many of us cannot afford to live in Santa Rosa or are living paycheck to paycheck. And when I heard one of the board members say, have faith in the process, the process has a timeline, and our contract will be up at the end of November. But at the same time, the school district is asking us to choose our healthcare plan for the year, if we are even part of that. I pay 25% out of my own pocket because I'm not a full-time employee. So in other words, what I'm being asked to do is choose a health plan, whether I can afford it or not, because I won't know until December, but I have to choose by September 15th. So you are putting many people who are living paycheck to paycheck in similar situations where they don't even know what to choose because they don't know what their paycheck is going to be. Everybody was so eloquent that came before me, and I wish that I could be the same, but I jotted down a few other notes, and that was the fiscal responsibility that Mr. Medina talked about. And I say, whose responsibility is that? And whose has it been leading up to this point? And that is the board. And so we are not the ones who should be carrying the burden of your fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandy. Next, I have Samantha Sharp, followed by Alida Perales, followed by Debbie Beecher.
Thank you. My name's Samantha Sharp. I work at Santa Rosa High School. We've talked a lot about all the hats that classified staff wear, and I think one of the most important one that our student board member mentioned is we are a safe place for the students to go during their hectic and crazy school day. We are somewhere they can go to feel safe from the other students, from the stress of classes. We are their safe place. We are their advocates on top of everything else that we are asked to do throughout the day, including being a very good customer service representative, as Dr. Morales said. Sorry, I lost my place. One of the things that I think is really important to touch on is I'm a very lucky member of our union. I'm a dual income house. But just to put it into a little bit of perspective from you, after I pay insurance for my family and a couple of other things that come out of my check, I take home monthly about $2,500 a month. My rent is more than that in total. So that's a very good visual for you to know exactly what we actually make. We are always pushed off to the side, and we take it because the main reason that classified staff is here is for the students. I think it's time that classified staff take a page out of our SRTA counterparts and actually stand up for what we deserve. We will not be looked over. You all said very pretty words, but at this point, talk is cheap. We see through you. And when I say talk is cheap, I mean cheaper than my monthly income. So just so you know, I think if you are standing with us, then and you support the classified staff, you should have never approved that budget that didn't include our raises to begin with. You knew that our contract was coming up, and you knew that this was something that you needed to deal with. So that's all.
Thank you, Samantha. Next, we have Alida Perales, followed by Debbie Beecher, followed by Angela Giglazzi, I believe it is. So, Alida?
Good evening. My name's Alida Perales. I work at the district office in information and evaluations. I'm grateful and appreciative for my job. I respect my coworkers. I respect all the wonderful people I've met. I have a deep fear of public speaking, but I thought it was important to get up here in front of my daughter who came with me tonight, a senior at Santa Rosa High. I have another daughter who graduated from Montgomery. I'm a proud single mother. I work really, really hard. I take pride in my work, and I have a simple dream. I live a humble life. I would love to be able to rent my own apartment for my daughters and I one day on what I make. And I cannot do that. And I haven't been able to do that. And I will keep working and not give up, but that's all I ask, is to take people like us into consideration when you think about these raises or denying the raises. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alita. Next, I have Debbie Beecher, followed by Angela Giglazzi, followed by Margie Brady Long. Debbie?
Hi, good evening. My name is Debbie Beecher. I'm a counselor in the district. I've been here for 32 years. And I felt like I needed to speak tonight because of this disregard and disrespect for our classified staff. Lots been said, so I won't repeat all those things, but I want to talk about a story that happened many years ago. You guys were not responsible for this, but it lingers in my heart. Years ago, there was a terrible flood in Santa Rosa. And it was so dangerous that the district said that the students were to stay home. The certificated class were to stay home, but the classified staff needed to come in. If they didn't come in, then they would have to take a personal necessity day to stay home. So when we talk about these people as being essential, it looks to me more like they were expendable. So I would hope that our district has moved beyond this mentality that they're third-class citizens in our district. But what I see is an ever-growing gap in the wages between the administrators, certificated and classified. The gap is growing wider. And I'm real concerned about the, treating these most financially vulnerable people in the worst positions. And again, when we say the word equity, it's got to be more than a slogan. It has to have meaning behind it. How are we showing equity to our CSEA colleagues? So please, you knew about this when you set the budget for your salaries, for my salaries. Why didn't you take in consideration for our most essential employees? And thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie. Next, I have Angela Giglazzi, followed by Margie Brady Long, followed by Gary Arkoff. Angela?
Good evening. My name is Angela Gigliazza. I am a SRTA member and teacher in Santa Rosa City Schools, and I am standing with our CSEA employees. I want to know why CSEA employees are the only ones to go without a raise this year. Why weren't the raises budgeted with the same consideration that was given to the management staff and the teachers? This sends a very bad message to the classified employees that their hard work that they do for us is not valued. CSEA is looked at as the weak link in this district. They are always pushed aside when it comes to negotiations and raises. There is no equity or equality throughout the district. Every entity in the district receives salary increases, the board members, SRTA, and administrators. CSEA deserves theirs. Tell me, how would this district run without them? They are equally as important as everyone else, and we could not run our days without them. The kids could not run without them. The teachers cannot run without them. The admin cannot do their jobs without them. You are looking at the schools shutting down. I would hope that they take a page out of SRTA, and you showed up. So glad you showed up. SRTA showed up last year. We showed up in force. And I think it put a little scare to you guys and said, give these guys a raise. So I hope that they do the same, and you better give them a raise because we're going to stand behind them. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Next, I have Margie Brady Long for Margaret Boone, followed by Gary Arkoff, followed by Jeremy Arnold. Margie?
I'm Margie Brady Long, and I'm reading this on behalf of Margaret Boone, who cannot be here tonight. Good evening, Superintendent and members of the board. The first time I ever spoke to the board was 2018. That night, I spoke about how underpaid our classified staff were. I talked about how they had to work multiple jobs, live in low-income housing, and how they got their insurance through Covered California. While their wages have increased since then, their wages are not a living wage and are not competitive enough to fill the open positions we have. Last board meeting, we approved a huge $6.4 million contract with Inspire that's on top of contracts with Ameris, RO Health, and Positive Behavior Supports. These millions of dollars are spent each year to pay more than twice as much per hour to agencies to fill our vacant positions, rather than paying enough to attract and retain our own staff. I hear that all bargaining with classified staff has been indefinitely put on hold. They'd expected to get their first offer from the district this month, but now they're hearing there will be no offer until we fix our $20+ million deficit. We all understand the district cannot keep spending money they don't have, but we hope you realize we cannot punish our classified staff for the district's overspending. There are people who live paycheck to paycheck whose wages have already not kept up with inflation. Why should they bear the burden for overspending they did not create? Maybe instead we should figure out how to pay these people a competitive wage so we could cut out all those outside agencies. We pay a district ENN assistant $20.74 an hour, and at that same job we pay an outside agency $65 an hour. After benefits, that's still about double the dollars for an outside agency. We need to save money. Save it by cutting out these ridiculously expensive outside agencies. Our classified staff are people who feed and care for our kids. They're the ones translating for our parents, keeping our campuses safe and clean. They keep our schools running, and we repay them by withholding a raise because we cannot manage our money. That's not how you balance a budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And thank you, Margaret. Next, I have Gary Arkoff, followed by Jeremy Arnold, followed by Wendy Alberin, the Nymark. Gary?
Good evening. My name is Gary Arkoff. I'm a family engagement facilitator at San Jose High School. I recently celebrated my 6th anniversary, so this is my 7th school year. I spent the first 6.5 years as campus supervisor, and there are multiple videos of me breaking up fights among students, just to give you a demonstration of what we do for the wages you pay us. I work with some of the hardest working and most dedicated people. The other classified employees at San Jose High School and the district and other schools work hard. We get up and we're there at 7:30 in the morning for our students. When I found out that the district wasn't even going to make an offer to our classified, I was offended. It is criminal the way I feel like we are being treated. I'm fortunate that my wife and I can live on the pittance that I earn because I had a previous career. But there are a number of my friends and coworkers who are not here tonight, not because they don't want to be here, but because they have 2 jobs or they have 3 jobs and they still can't make ends meet. You know, I appreciate the nice words from y'all, but talk is cheap. Let's see some real action from y'all. It is criminal the way this is being handled. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Jeremy Arnold, followed by Wendy Albrand the Nymark, followed by Kyle Brandon, I think it is. Jeremy?
Good evening, board members, Dr. Morales. My name is Jeremy Arnold. I have the distinct privilege of serving CSEA Santa Rosa 75 as their labor relations representative, and I live here in town. You know, while you all are enjoying your Labor Day weekend this weekend, I want you to take some time to reflect on how you have betrayed over 600 workers here in this school district. If you were planning to go to the Labor Day breakfast, consider yourself uninvited. This is not going to be a fun morning for you. You know, while we're waiting until December 15th at the earliest for a compensation proposal, there's other stuff that we are asking for. We want to improve our sick leave process. Your negotiators say no. We want to add some vacation days for our members with 15+ years of seniority. Your negotiators say no. We want to allow our school year employees to take an occasional vacation. This is a proposal we believe would actually save the district money. Your negotiators who are standing here say no. We, you know, with no compensation proposal before December, our contract will inevitably expire on October 31st. And after that, the union will no longer be bound by our no strike clause. So guess what? We We are set to resume negotiating this Friday. I recommend you check in with your bargaining team before then, as the stance your representatives take on these issues will decide the direction of our labor relations. Things can get better or things can get worse. You're out of time to choose, so move swiftly.
Thank you, Jeremy. Now I have Wendy, followed by Kyle, followed by Jessica Lichow. Wendy, could you state your full name for the record?
My name is Wendy Albarrán de Naimark, and I work at Santa Rosa High School.
Thank you.
I want to say hello to everybody. It's been impounded on us that we have to be courteous to our elders, to our upper, I don't know, you guys are the board, right? So we're asking you guys that if you do something good for us, we'll pay it back because we're being here for you guys all the time. I get emotional because I've been through the district. I got hurt in the district and I'm still with you guys, but I do it for the kids because if I had to live on the money that I make now, I wouldn't live in Santa Rosa. A lot of my kids are leaving. Their parents cannot pay the rent. Most of the workers in the cafeteria, they have 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They can't be here. I have custodians that are scared of coming and talking to you guys because they think they're gonna get fired. We shouldn't live like that. You guys are our bosses of our bosses. Take a pay cut, give us back the money, and we stay with you guys. We're loyal to the kids. We're behind the kids, we're behind the parents. But if we start complaining, we're gonna go to the parents, and you're not gonna have any kids in the school. I think we make the money for having these kids in the schools, right? So if the parents don't bring their school to the kids is not there, there's no money to be made for you guys, for us, for anybody. And then we will have to go back to, oh, let's do distance learning. Let's do the learning from home. That doesn't work. The kids need us and we need them. So be curious to everybody. And if you guys take a pay cut and give us money back, guess what? Everybody's gonna be happy because we're seeing your sacrifice.
Thank you, Wendy. Next I have Kyle. Could you say your last name, Kyle, please? And then followed by Jessica Lichow.
Hello, my name is Kyle Bradford. I'm a senior at Santa Rosa High School. I came here with no intent to speak. After hearing the stories of people who have supported me from elementary school to high school, not be able to support themselves, I had to. They have made connections with me, made my life personally better, more than the teachers have. They've affected me personally and reached out to me whenever I had a hard time. Everybody I've seen here from Santa Rosa High School has talked to me and supported me. Hearing Gary, a man who has single-handedly made Santa Rosa a safer place, not be able to support himself. It's outside of his pay grade to be breaking up fights and having to literally pull students off each other, but he does it anyways with no hesitation. There shouldn't be hesitation than to pay him more for what he deserves. I can only attest to the schools that I have gone to that their staff has supported me, but I'm sure every other student would love to talk about their classified members. They always are the ones that everybody talks about that make their school life better. Nobody's talking about the teachers as much because these people care about the students because that's the only reason they're doing this. And yeah, pay them more.
Thank you, Brandon. Next, I have Jessica Lichow. Is Jessica still here? And also, if Nadine's still here?
I'm Jessica.
Jessica, go ahead, Jessica.
Thank you. I'm a parent in the district. I am president of the PTO, the nonprofit that funds Santa Rosa Charter School for the Arts. I am treasurer of ArtQuest. I am for the last 2 years, I've been on the Superintendent's Advisory Board. I can vouch that the lady that spoke before me, she's a super support for Santa Rosa High all day long. She's interacting with kids all day long. These people deserve raises. What shouldn't have happened is the superintendent shouldn't have been hired for almost $300,000. And your 5% raises as a board, by the way, they did that when everyone was in summer and no one was here, and I was one of the only parents here that stood up and said how asinine that was. If you just gave up your $160,000 and came back down to our level, how many more families could you fund? How many more things could we be doing if the leaders came down to our level and lived the lives that we're living? Number one. Number two, I'd like to point out your master's facility plan. A year ago, you marketed to us that the priority would be safety, security, and of course, improving the unsanitary things about our schools. You've released your master's facility plan with safety and security being 3 years from now. It's not what you marketed to us. I feel like around Santa Rosa, you guys have been hushing principals, which I've verified, that you've told them it's not their business, they need to stay out of it. Santa Rosa High School is begging you for boundaries around their school to improve their safety and security. So is Slater Middle School. Why is it 3 years from now? Why do we pay the superintendent $300,000?
Thank you, Jessica. Your time is up. Thank you. And just one last call for Nadine. Were you still here? No? Okay. Thank you. So that's all the public comments we have. I just do want to end by clarifying a couple things. We approved our budget in June. In that budget, we're not allowed to include any potential raises. It's just possible we can't include that in there. So I just wanted that to be clear. The letter that we got from Scope came after that, which has impacted the process that we must follow. So in terms of process, we've got to follow this process. It could be excuses, however you all want to see it. I hear there's nothing at the table, but I'd say just continue to go to the process. We can't discuss what's at the table here, but we trust in our negotiation team, and we hope that y'all continue that collaborative process and understand that I think we're all hopeful for some peaceful resolution that's fair and just. So with that said, we will move on to the next part of our agenda. Item F1, approval of resolution for September as Suicide Prevention Month.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Morales, President Medina, and members of the board. Thank you tonight, and I'm Stacy Desideri, Executive Director of Wellness and Engagement, and here with me tonight is our Director of Mental Health and Community Schools Development, Eric Lofty. And together we are here tonight to present our resolution for September being Suicide Prevention Month.
Hello, thank you, everybody. I will read resolution number 2024-25-06. Resolution recognizing September as Suicide Prevention Month. Whereas suicide is a significant public health concern affecting individuals of all ages, including students, families, and communities within the state of California, and is a leading cause of death among youth that impacts students, family, and the community. Research shows that the community in which youth reside is a supportive factor in suicide prevention. And whereas the month of September 2024 is National Suicide Prevention Month, when millions of people around the world join their voices to share a message of hope and healing and resiliency. And whereas Striving for Zero, California's strategic plan for suicide prevention, urges all Californians to play a role in suicide prevention and promoting health and wellness, and the state of California recognition of the importance of mental health awareness and education within the school setting as outlined in California Education Code Sections 215. And whereas it is essential that we educate students about suicide and mental health and the ways they affect all people in the community. And whereas in alignment with Suicide Prevention Board Policy 5141.52, Santa Rosa City Schools seeks collaboration with school health professionals, school counselors, school psychologists, school social workers, nurses, administrators, teachers, other staff, parents, guardians, students, local health agencies, mental health professionals, and community organizations. And whereas as part of a comprehensive health education plan, Santa Rosa City Schools suicide prevention practices involve communication that promotes resiliency, encourages help-seeking behaviors, and develops action and resources that help prevent suicide. And whereas as part of Santa Rosa City Schools' multi-tiered system of support, Santa Rosa City Schools has systematically recognized and created systems and staff to address the long-term needs from the years of fire, pandemic traumas, as well as other local tragedies that have affected our students, staff, and families. Whereas these observances are united in raising awareness that prevention is possible and that when people seek and receive help, they are less likely to die by suicide. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Santa Rosa City Schools will stand with the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention in recognizing September as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And further, be it resolved that Santa Rosa City Schools will actively participate in statewide and community-based suicide prevention activities throughout September, consistent with the California Education Code's emphasis on student well-being and mental health education. And be it further resolved that Santa Rosa City Schools will integrate age-appropriate suicide awareness and prevention education into curriculum as appropriate and in accordance with the California Education Code Sections 215. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, Trustee De La Torre.
Eric, Stacy, thank you very much for bringing this very poignant and important resolution to our attention. As we discuss this, I just want to put out there to make sure that we're not only putting this resolution down, but we're taking actionable steps. We're ensuring that resources that are available to our community are known and published throughout our campuses. A direct plea to our students and our staff: if you see something, say something. Use the Stop It app anonymously. The only way this works is as a community. You see somebody having a rough time, you see somebody isolated, reach out, communicate, make sure a trusted adult is informed and understands so that we can get to the root of those hurts and truly prevent these from happening. So not only a beautiful resolution, but that we're doing the steps as a district to make sure everything is published and accessible and understood of what resources are readily available, because it is abundant. We do have a community that is pulled together and have a lot of opportunities for help. But unfortunately, kids in the most dire situations may not know what help is there and how to access it.
Other board questions? None? I do have a question. I was talking to a family engagement facilitator today about back to school nights, and she indicated that they're inviting community agencies to be present as part of theirs. So I'm curious, do we have any agencies that are participating in our back to school nights that might provide information and resources as part of our back to school nights that we're collaborating with?
I'm not 100% sure as to what's happening at all of the back to school nights, but I can share that we are disseminating and sharing the graphics and images that come through the NAMI's campaign, NAMI's National Association of Mental Illnesses campaign. Their materials are really positive, and that's what we're going to be sharing with all of our administrators and counseling departments. My hope is that material will be up by back to school nights throughout the district.
We also have been ensuring that at a number of our community events, we always bring the message and share both in informational ways, but also just with flyers, activities, handouts, stickers, a constant message of if you need help, it is a sign of strength to ask for it. And when you ask for help, things do get better.
Thank you. Board Member Zuniga?
I want to put this out there. So I'm an intern at Latino Service Providers as a youth promotor. And for last week's monthly meeting, or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, we underwent a training on suicide prevention. And so as I sit here on this board, I have sat through 2 hours of presentations at SCO. And I will try my absolute best to connect the resources and organizations that I was partnered with and given to clubs at my high school that are focused on mental health and actions behind that. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Zuniga. Any other board member questions? I think I just would add that aside from distributing information, it would maybe encourage our schools, if they're having information presented, to encourage them to highlight that September is Suicide Prevention Month and distribute those resources, if not invite organizations to be present distributing with us. But if there's no other board member questions, we'll take it to comments. Okay, go ahead, Trustee Flores.
Yeah, so thank you. I think every time you bring this up, I say thank you because it is so paramount that we have not only resolutions like this, but support services that are there for the most vulnerable. And sometimes our students with suicidal ideation are not usually sometimes they're not like what you would think, right? So in terms of extra support services, he mentioned, our student trustee mentioned a club. Do we have clubs available at the high schools? I know where I work, we have Bring Change to Mind, which, I mean, their main point is to bring the idea of, normalizing, asking for help and mental health issues. Do we have clubs like that throughout the district?
Several of our high schools do have Bring Change to Mind clubs. The schools that do not currently have Bring Change to Mind clubs, we are working to build those student stigma reducing groups. I had all of the high school-based therapists today at the County Office of Education doing a QPR training, which is a gatekeeper training that we provide to all freshmen. We are really continuing to work to expand the footprint of mental health through our beginning of our wellness center development, and that we're looking to make it something that is more universal through our health curriculum, and then looking at what it means to deliver age-appropriate suicide prevention. At a certain age, it becomes a lot more metacognition, health and wellness, mental health advocacy in a lot of ways is suicide prevention, helping folks understand their emotions helping them understand that talking about emotions actually helps resolve emotional pain. Those are efforts that we're doing system-wide.
Well, thank you.
Any final questions, board? Are there any public comments? No public comments. It comes back to the board for additional commentary or discussion. Any discussion?
I'd like to move approval of the resolution for September Suicide Prevention Month.
Second?
Moved by trustee De La Cruz. I didn't quite catch who the second was. Trustee De La Torre seconded. Let's go to the vote.
Student Board Member Zuniga.
Aye.
Trustee De La Cruz.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Sheffield.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you. We will now move on to item F2, approval of resolution to recognize September as Attendance Awareness Month. Stacy.
So it's us again, Stacy Desideri and Eric Lofty from the Department of Wellness and Engagement. We are here tonight to request action on resolution that is 2425-05, which is recognizing September as the Attendance Awareness Month. Whereas good attendance is essential to student achievement and graduation, and we, Santa Rosa City Schools, are committed to dedicating our resources and attention to reducing chronic absenteeism rates with a focus starting as early as pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. Whereas chronic absence, missing 10% or more of school for any reason, including excused and unexcused absences, or even just 2 or 3 days a month, is a proven predictor of academic trouble and dropout rates. Whereas chronic absence is now a required reporting metric under the federal Every Student Succeeds Act. Whereas approving attendance and reducing chronic absence takes commitment, collaboration, and tailored approaches to particular challenges and strengths in each community. Whereas chronic absence predicts lower third-grade reading proficiency, course failure, and eventual dropout, it weakens our communities and our local economy. Whereas the impact of chronic absence hits low-income and students of color particularly hard if they don't have the resources to make up for lost time in the classroom and are more likely to face systemic barriers to getting to school, such as unreliable transportation, lack of access to healthcare, unstable or unaffordable housing. Whereas attendance gaps among groups of students often turn into achievement gaps, which undermine student success. Chronic absence particularly exacerbates the achievement gap that separates low-income students from their peers, since students from low-income families are both more likely to be chronically absent and more likely to be affected academically by missing school. Whereas absenteeism also undermines efforts to improve struggling schools, since it's hard to measure improvement in classroom instruction if students are not in class to benefit from them. Whereas school and community partners can reach out more frequently to absent students to determine what barriers they face to attending school and what would help them attend more regularly. Whereas healthcare providers and our community-based organization partners can share the importance of school attendance with families and can offer proactive, preventative care to reduce absences, and where schools and districts must do more to track, calculate, and share the data on how many students are chronically absent so that we can see attendance gaps and deliver the right interventions to the right students. And whereas all students, even those who show up regularly, are affected by chronic absence because teachers must spend more time reviewing for students who miss the lessons. And whereas chronic absence can be significantly reduced when schools, families, and communities work together to monitor and promote good attendance and address hurdles that keep students from getting to school. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Santa Rosa City Schools will stand with the nation in recognizing September as Attendance Awareness Month. We hereby commit to supporting improving school attendance and reducing chronic absenteeism to give all children an equitable opportunity to learn, grow, thrive academically, emotionally, and socially.
Thank you. Board questions? Trustee Sheffield?
Thank you. And I love this resolution. I love that we do this at the start of the year because we put a lot of focus on attendance. We put a lot of focus on declining enrollment, what we saw from last year's numbers, anticipated numbers coming in to the start of the school year. I want to be consistent with this board's desire to put action behind these resolutions. So I do have some questions. And mostly this is for greater awareness for the public to know that we're taking actions to really address this issue seriously. The resolution talks about hurdles to attendance and reaching out to engage. Can we talk about some of the strategies that the district takes to address the attendance issue?
Thank you for giving us an opportunity to recognize the hard work of many of our staff, because the beginning of the school year is an incredibly busy time. Whether you're talking about the site-based attendance staff and family engagement facilitators, the district staff who partner with the school sites, the first 5 days of school is essential in taking very accurate attendance so that we can identify those students who are missing. And once we identify those lists, we partner with not only the school community, but we look at special education. We look at our partners and liaisons with foster and homeless youth. And we spend right now, if you look at the last few days, each school has probably done more than 2 hands full of home visits. Every single day, our team is going out and visiting multiple families, going to families where they live to ask, what can we do to help your children come back to school? We are partnering families and students with resources, both within our district, within our community, with community-based organizations, and with some of the resources, the social service resources, to help minimize those barriers that are getting in the way.
Sorry, can you identify some of the community-based organizations that we do work with? And I bring this up because Dr. Morales had talked about her intentions to meet with these organizations as her introduction to the community.
Well, at the beginning of the year, we work very closely not only with special education case managers, but we work with some of the resources such as Caritas Village, who is supporting our students who might have housing instability. We also work very closely with a number of different service agencies like TLC and some of the programs, social workers that are supporting our students that might be in foster placement. We work very closely with Seneca, not only through their Keeping Kids in School program, but through some of their WRAP services that are specifically supporting individual families that might be in need. And twice so far this school year, we have met with the partnership with the City of Santa Rosa, which is a coalition of a large number of different community-based organizations. It's sometimes referred to as the Violence Prevention Partnership, but they do so much more than addressing concerns of community safety. Circuit Riders are a part of that organization, and we partner not only with our own district, but with Roseland Unified School District. We are in constant communication with Petaluma and other programs, because our students are not alone in Santa Rosa. They have siblings, they have family members, and we are often coordinating with other districts to ensure that transportation for those students, that transportation is a barrier, it can be addressed. And that's often in concert with other districts.
Okay.
And City Bus, sorry, forgot City Bus.
Yeah, oh, good. Transportation is a big part of it, exactly. But I read in, I think it was EdSource, about California's chronic absenteeism being more pronounced in the early grades. That's California. Is that the same as us in the district? Do we see, it's mostly kindergarten, probably now TK as well, where the rates have been historically the highest in statewide. Is it reflect?
We have made a significant amount of growth over the last 3 years. All of our districts across California, following the pandemic, trying to get students to come back to school regularly was a big difficulty. We've made a significant improvement over the last 3 years. And at this point, when you compare our secondary absenteeism to our elementary absenteeism, they're about even. At secondary, we're around, we got down to about 20.5% from 39% 3 years ago. So
Right.
we've made a significant improvement. And it's difficult when you're talking about kindergarten and TK because it's not compulsory education until children turn 6. But we have found that targeting and supporting families at the elementary level builds healthy habits.
Right. Otherwise, it has that snowball effect. where-
Exactly. And it carries in. And the kind of support that we provide at elementary is qualitatively different because problems with attendance at elementary can generally be traced to a family need, where at secondary, some of these students are transporting themselves and the family may be, right there on board, but the child themselves is
Sure.
struggling. So the process is a little different.
Yeah. So I know that this is an issue that we've been addressing even before the pandemic.
Yes.
And, before the pandemic, I think we were around 18%.
Yes.
And the state was at around 12%.
Yes.
Now, I know the state shot up to about 36, but then they were able to, over the past year, bring that down 10%. Okay, and that is amazing. And I know that we have not been able to do it quite as quickly, but we did, and we should get credit for bringing our percentage down because that takes a lot of effort. And also, if we're looking at averages, I want to point out that we had returned to the classroom later than much of the state for a number of reasons because of the way that, the specific demographics in our county and the way that COVID impacted us. So I wanted to point that out. So I think we deserve a little bit more credit than maybe the numbers reflect.
However, we can always do more.
We can always do more. Exactly. I just had one more question because it came up, and I'm just curious about how we report student absences. I know, again, it's different at the elementary level than it is at the higher grades. And I want to use my son as an example because he had a doctor's appointment the second day of school. And he was late. And it was great because I got the notice on my phone. I was like, but we already contacted the school. But the notice was perfect. It was like in real time for a minute because I was working and my wife took him to the doctor. For a minute, my heart skipped a beat because I forgot, right? And I was on the road traveling and I was like, where's my son? But that was perfect because it was in real time. It was right there. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about that part of it. And that's that outreach, that really important outreach to families.
Absolutely. So we notify families twice a day of student absences. The first notification goes out around 11 in the morning and captures any absences that may have been reported in the morning. And the families will get a phone call saying, and I'm paraphrasing, your child was not in school today. At the secondary, it might mention your child was not in period 2 today. And that notification captures any absences in the morning. There's a second phone call that goes out at 5 p.m. That captures any students who were here all morning and then left. But we do allow and we provide time for families. So if your family was not able to inform the school before the absence happened or right as your student walks in, they do have up to 10 days to notify the school and share with us why your child might have been out. It is important to remember that every absence, whether it is an excused absence or an unexcused absence, every absence impacts instruction. And so during the month of September, we have a marketing campaign that we will be sharing with families through Parent Square weekly and sometimes more than once a week, little message, a little blurb about why it's important to remember that your child always benefits by being at school.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Really support this resolution. Thank you.
Trustee Flores? Oh, and then Trustee De La Torre, sorry.
Sorry, thank you, Trustee Sheffield, for those questions. Do we have any sort of incentives that are, was that your question? That we have implemented district-wide in terms of to improve, the presence or to decrease absenteeism?
So I'm going to be a little soapboxy here with you. And I think that the incentive is to recognize and to honor attendance improvement. Perfect attendance is something always that we would celebrate. But oftentimes the ability to be perfect is outside of the control of a family or a student. And we don't want to create a sense of shame if a family does have a legitimate reason or a reason that has been identified as being, an excused absence. And so I tend not to value the everybody stand up if you're perfect, because it's just as important to recognize that I may have missed 2 days in the month of August, but now I've only missed one. And those kinds of improvement, that's what we're looking for, not perfection.
What I'm talking about is something that is consistent and systematic, right, or systemic. And, in a little school that that someone works at, I mean, what we do over there is weekly, we do a weekly drawing in terms of, for perfect attendance, right? And it changes and we draw like 5, 6 names. And they're recognized through the loudspeaker, right? That sort of thing. And then the incentive starts yet again for the following week, right? So it's never, and probably we'll have perfect attendance at the end of the school year. Who knows, right? Or the best percentages. Anyway, and then most improved, whatever, right? So that way it's reinstated every week, and you have different students winning, every single time. So do we have something like that?
We would not, I would say not in terms of a systemic way where every single school will handle that on their own. Almost every school does have ways to honor and recognize different different features that benefit students. I can think of 3 or 4 different schools that have incentive type programs, citizenship improvement, academic improvement, behavioral improvement. But no, we do not have a single system that is done at each one of the schools. It's a good area for growth.
So, I mean, I'd just like to propose it to the board that it's, incentivizing students, it works a lot better than, punitive measures, and that's been proven over and over again. And we live in a system where we penalize and, for students, absences, regardless of the reasons, right? So start looking at ways to incentivize students, presence. I think it's important. So, thank you.
Y de la Torre?
Thank you, Trustee Flores, for sharing all my thoughts. Now, it can't be spoken about enough. Bottom line, we've heard it here over and over tonight. Our revenue is students in the seats at school. How do we create an environment where students want to be there, where it's important enough for them to be there and their families to get them there safely? If they can't get them there, what opportunities do we have partnered within the community to get them there? We are not looking for incentives of perfection. We're looking for incentives of a word you've used a lot, which is improvement. You're doing better. You're making strides in the right direction. To recognize that, to honor that. If it's site level, that's great, but we really need to emphasize incentives for children to see that their efforts and their efforts towards improvement are acknowledged and recognized. And none of us on this board expect any of our students to be perfect, but we expect them to be doing the best they can within their abilities and to understand how important that is to them and their families to make that happen. I was a student that had no means to get to school other than myself from kindergarten on. It was important for me to get there. It wasn't important to my parents for me to get there. So that's why I take this such heart, because school was a good place to be. School was a safe place that I wanted to be. How do we provide that environment for our students today? What do we do to offer them something that they want to go there? They want to learn, they want to grow, they want to feel loved. And that's all we're asking is this is a beautiful resolution. We want to partner it with the mental health that was spoken before. But what do we do to help encourage better behavior, better opportunities, and making them want to be there?
Well, and what you're talking about are recognized in those pillars of the community schools that we are looking at to drive the transformation in our district. Dr. Morales shared some really beautiful messaging that it is the belonging that makes a student get up in the morning, whether they are getting up in the morning because they know their teacher will say, I missed you when you weren't here today, or because there is a team or a club that is going to feel their absence. It is that sense of relationship and belonging that we see that helps make that difference. And so when we have families that are visited by our family engagement facilitators, by our counseling staff, by our teachers, by our administrators, these families don't feel judged or harmed because they know we see you, we missed you, what can we do? And it really does feel like a partnership. If you look back 10, 15 years at the truancy process, the SARB was something to be feared. The referral to a district attorney, because it meant that there was a big hammer waiting for you, a big punishment. And as we have been evolving over the last number of years, the SARB process is now about removing barriers and providing additional resources so there aren't any excuses. It's not about a fear-based motivation of trying to get students to school. It's about matching each individual student with their goals, their needs, and any resources we can use to try to improve that relationship. But relationships are at the heart of it.
Thank you. Other board questions? Seeing none, I've got one. Well, the first question is, do we know how much a student that doesn't qualify for free bus transportation has to pay?
In Santa Rosa,
Yeah,
it's free for all students if they are riding the city bus.
No, I mean the school bus.
Ask your question one more time. I want to make sure I understand
So
it.
for one of our students to ride the yellow school bus to go to school, if they don't qualify for the free benefit, do we know what they have to pay?
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
I'll get that information. I believe that as long as there is a need, and I think it's 1 mile at the elementary level, and it's 3 miles at the secondary level. However, I have seen situations where a student, due to some unique circumstances, as long as it's not increasing an additional stop, has been able to be accommodated on the West County buses.
The only reason I bring it up is because I had a parent complain her daughter was going to Montgomery, which is outside of her district. Her school is LC Allen. Last year she was able to go to Montgomery, but now she has to go to LC Allen. And before she took the city bus for free, and now they have to pay. It's 1.6 miles. And so that's why I was asking, because of that financial obstacle.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we could look into that further to find out how that's impacting students, families, where it's cheaper to go on the city bus than our own buses. And even though it's less efficient to use the city bus to get that 1.6 miles. So in terms of questions, that's all I had. So we'll go to public comment. I do have one public comment on this. Jessica Alicia, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I wanted to make public comment on this because I'm currently fostering a senior. And to no fault of his own, he's in a situation where he's not only behind in credits, but he's been a part of this attendance problem really since the 3rd grade. This is the first time in his life that he's stable and he has a good support system. And we recently tried to get him back in football. But because of the choices his parents made, and his lifestyle up to this point, he's been excluded from participating in the sports that he loves that would motivate him to go to school, motivate him to attend regularly, motivate him to get good grades, provide a support system for him, a community. And so I just want to know why. Like, if kids are getting back on track and they are proving that they are doing better and they have, I don't even think a kid needs to prove that he has a support system to play football, in my personal opinion, but why? Why are the kids that are proving that they want this, why are they still being excluded from playing sports? The athletic director has said, you've just done, like, you're past the point of being able to play due to the protocol and the rules. Why? That was my first comment. The second comment was, this whole district needs a robust bus system. If you guys want kids to go to school and you want kids to attend, you need to provide a robust bus system. The PTO at Santa Rosa Charter just talked about buying their own bus for this exact reason. Sonoma Valley has a shuttle system that picks up centrally at the train station. Kids can get there by other means, and then they shuttle their kids in. If we can afford a $300,000 superintendent, we should be able to provide free buses to all of our kids.
Thank you. Next, I have Dina Flores.
Good evening, board. I'm here once again because we decided not to approve my settlement. So as I told you, I'll be at
I'm
every
sorry,
meeting.
Ms. Flores, this is not.
Yes, I
related to
know,
that.
I know.
Okay.
I'm continuing. Thank you. That's why I'm here tonight. So I'll be commenting when I see fit. So that being said, when we're talking about attendance, I'm glad Ms. Dela Cruz's son is now observing this so he can understand what his mommy's doing at the board level. So with attendance, why rates low? Why?
Leave the mic on. She's talking about attendance.
I'm talking about attendance. I don't know what the problem is. So with attendance, when this board makes decisions that financially benefit themselves, Ms. Dela Cruz, and puts our students at risk, for example, with removing SROs, why do you think the attendance rates are down? I'm your former executive assistant. Guess who was the liaison to the community and received parent complaints? You know what they were about? School safety. School safety is why the attendance rate is down. Also, all the mental health crises of these children due to the decisions that you are making to contract with your own nonprofits that has nothing to do with the best interests of these children. So you could smirk all you want, but you just are not running for re-election because you know how the parents feel about you. So thank you, God bless you. I'm sorry, new superintendent, but I mean, they brought you on for a reason. You're gonna be the scapegoat, so good luck. God bless you.
Thank you. And now it comes back to the board for discussion. I did want to add some non-question discussion to this item. As a little kid, I used to get a lot of those little perfect attendance awards, and I really liked them so much that I apparently still have them. And thinking about those a while back, I started thinking about incentives for attendance. And I know that we, as a board, I think we have a representation on the Made in Santa Rosa Foundation. And one of the ideas that I kind of had is how do we tie, how could we have like a foundation help us with incentives for attendance that, and the idea that I had was tied to when, whatever goals or metrics that we have around attendance, that students would be awarded in the form of a contribution to a Scholarship 529 account that then puts money in an account for them for college. And part of why the state has kind of created that account that's state managed is because the data shows that when there's that money, it puts that idea in the head of the students to then get them to start thinking about college early on. And hopefully that encourages and increases the numbers in that way. So I think it's about encouraging attendance, but also encouraging and implanting that idea of attending college because the data shows that when that money's there and they know that money's there, it increases the numbers. So I'd say take that idea to the foundation if we can. No charge for me. Trustee Sheffield.
One of the public speakers, sort of brought up the reality that there's a story behind the numbers. And I was looking at the California dashboard and the equity report and seeing where we stand and the students that are the most chronically absent. And there's some demographic issues that we know are there, but there's 131 students that are in the red. And all of those have a story behind them, whether it's, foster care, home life, whether it's little Omar with perfect attendance. But, I think we should explore everything that is going to give that motivation, that little bit, school sports, something that is going to spark that support system that's needed. 131 students that we have identified, right? And we know that there's a story behind them. And we just have to find that way of connecting with them, with their families and their situation and trying to address it. So I'm open for, all possibilities.
And I'll just add an asterisk that perfect attendance was, you got to thank my mom because staying home was never an option. Even if I was sick, they'd have to send me back. So, other board discussion, Trustee De La Cruz.
I love this conversation about incentives and what makes kids come to school every day. I don't think it's I don't think that it's hard for us to understand how racialized the impacts of kids not feeling like they belong in our schools and why they don't come. It's questions of representation. People who don't look like us, they don't see us on dioceses, they react with a lot of hostility and anger. And they take personal attacks against specific kinds of kids and representatives of communities that represent, that still experience such deep underrepresentation and resulting underservice. And so I love that you're raising this equity dashboard around attendance, because I think that is central to what this board is about, because it's who we are and it's what we know about the experience of our kids in some of these systems. And so, I really appreciate always making sure that we're identifying the specific demographies of kids that are experiencing that disproportionality and impact, and that we continue to understand the importance of an anti-racist strategy to ensure that we're increasing belonging in those kids that are experiencing red when no others are in quite the same way.
Thank you, Trustee De La Cruz. Any other board comments or is there a motion? Trustee Flores?
Yeah, so in terms of, someone mentioned foster youth, right? So I think it was Jessica out there. Thank you for bringing that up. We do have folks within our district to answer those questions. So I would highly suggest that you reach out to either our superintendent or Stacy. Actually, Stacy, where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay. Just because there are laws like SB 81 that protects foster youth, we want to include foster youth in terms of building communities, right? And sports is one of those activities that build that. So I would highly suggest that you reach out to Stacy to see what's going on. I know sometimes CIF may be involved in terms of a hurdle. But there are waivers out there, that CIF will approve, right? And then there are ways to ensure that our most vulnerable students have access to what we offer. So just FYI, I just wanted to address that. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. I had forgotten to mention that. So CIF does have restrictions on GPAs in order for kids to participate in sports, but it's the competition level. So there are so many amazing coaches throughout our district who will make sure that kids can show up and practice and be in that powerful community of participating and feeling like, you're part of a team. And then it really gives you that incentive to, when you bring that GPA up to where you can compete, then you can suit up and then you can get on the field with your team. And so don't see it as a complete and total restriction. And I think there are definitely ways around it. And, just props to the amazing coaches throughout our system who continue to make sure that kids show up every day and are working towards the day where they can compete.
So yeah, I'm gonna add that. So there's a difference between competing and practicing, right? So they can still participate even though they may not have the qualifications, right? Until they're able to meet that threshold, whatever that threshold they're missing, right? Yeah.
It's a 2.0 GPA
Or
under
residency status,
CIF.
or whatever it is that they're looking for, yeah.
Trustee Zuniga?
So I run cross country at San Jose High School, and last year during the season, And even 2 years ago, we had a lot of teammates. I had teammates and I had friends that had GPAs below 2.0. But our coach is very forgiving. But she also is very, she gets on you because she wants you to compete. She wants you to run. And so she will let you practice. And she did let me practice. And not me, sorry, but my friends. Coach Carey wants us to be proficient students. And she knows that part of it is our mental health. And part of our mental health is the physical activity that we do. And so what she did was amazing. And although my friend isn't on the team anymore, she was able to get her grades up. Her GPA is now high enough to the point where she can actually play sports and compete in them. So as track runs around, I hope she joins because she has the ability to now, because our coach gave her that grace to really start that process of raising that GPA. So yeah.
I'll just add to that. I got to highlight LCL's rugby team, where a lot of the players there wanted to play football, but they can't because of their GPAs. They play rugby, and I mean, they've had some awesome folks playing at the national level. I know one of their coaches was just like coaching Fiji in the Olympics or something. But I mean, these are students that have a lot of potential, a lot of capacity, but rules.
And rugby's an incredible sport.
I've fallen in love with women's rugby after the Olympics. But anyways, neither here nor there. Any other comments? If not, a motion potentially?
Motion to approve resolution, recognize September as Attendance Awareness Month.
Second.
Second.
Moved by trustee La Torre, seconded by trustee Sheffield. Let's go to the vote.
Student Board Member Zuniga.
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre.
Aye.
Trustee Sheffield.
Aye.
Trustee De La Cruz.
Aye.
Trustee Flores.
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you. And now we will move on to item F3. This is a discussion item on the facilities implementation plan. An update on that. We'll have Lisa August and Eric Oden present.
Thank you, President Medina, Superintendent Dr. Morales, members of the board, and the SRCS community. This evening, we figured Ed Services usually brings their entourage, so it's our turn. So just want to go ahead and hand it over to our facilities team. They can introduce themselves and walk through the presentation. I'll share screen. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Morales. President Medina, members of the board, thank you for having us tonight. Let me introduce my team. With me here is Ms. Kathy Gottfried. She's our project manager for the district. Next to her is Mr. Brian Cameron with Van Pelt Construction Services. Van Pelt is our program management partner for the district with the bond. And somewhere up there is Ms. Felicia Silvera, also with Van Pelt. So a great team I have to help me. Without them, I don't know what I do, to be quite honest with you. So with that, we'll start a presentation. Now we'll start with budget and programming. What you see here is the facilities funds that we have available to help improve schools. So the older bond measures from 2014, measures I and L, still have a little bit of a balance left. I will talk about that in some upcoming slides. Measure C and G are our newer bond measures that were passed in 2022. We have developer fees from different developers around the county or city, excuse me, a small deferred maintenance fund, as well as state funds with matching grants for things that we build. And you can see kind of a little note there that we've already applied for over $10 million in matching funds for some of our roof projects we've done in the past. We have identified over $50 million more in other projects we have slated for the future. So transitioning from I and L, which was safe, warm, and dry, to measure C and G, which we're calling refresh, revitalize, and renew. We can talk about implementation planning. So this flow chart kind of shows basically what happens. So we start with evaluating the facilities. We help, as you remember back in December, develop our facilities master plan and our ed specifications. And then we start developing the implementation plan and how we're going to phase those projects out throughout the bond life. And then we development of the funding plan. So, and this is kind of a living cyclical thing that keeps going around. As things change, all these documents are living documents. So that as they change, we keep adapting and changing the plan. So this slide is based upon what we heard in all those 100+ master planning meetings with all the different stakeholder groups across our district. These are some of the top things that came out of that. A lot of new furniture, obviously, classroom modernization as a part of that. Safety and security was another big topic of concern, as well as just campus improvements, outside areas, painting, infrastructure, things like that. Here we attached the implementation plan for measures. This is just a snapshot of what we attached to the board doc, right? Which was the implementation plan for measure C, the secondary bond measure. So these are placeholders for projects based upon, coming out of what we heard from the stakeholder groups as projects that were identified that we could fit under the budget we have. This again is a living document, and as things work their way to the top, things on this list will shift. Something that would shift something like this is the school consolidation and closure plan. That will definitely have an effect on this document. So it's a living plan. We will adjust as needed. This is a snapshot of Measure G, which is the elementary implementation plan. Again, that was attached in the board document. We are continuing to develop district-wide standards to help standardize all of our classrooms and schools across the district. It will definitely help out our maintenance team in the future as we repair and maintain these facilities for years to come, as well as just giving a kind of uniform look across our district when you go from site to site. And we'll talk about some project recaps from 2023. We did high school restroom remodels last summer. These were the contracted costs that were board approved, and they all fit within that. And we did the main boys and girls restrooms at each of our 6 high schools. Here's some example pictures. Ridgeway, LC, and Santa Rosa High. I think they turned out great. I think the kids liked them. It's okay. No, we're good. We got the next slide.
So this summer, primarily, we undertook the district-wide exterior painting at all of the schools that are listed. The contracted costs are shown in the middle. The actual costs are pending because we're still wrapping these projects up. They're still doing kind of their final punch walks, finishing up any items that remain. And then we've got before and after photos. There's been really a lot of excitement at all of the sites that have been painted. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback that they're looking clean and fresh, and everybody's excited to come back to these new refreshed campuses. Also, Santa Rosa High School was a big one that included a little bit more than painting. There was some restoration work. You can see that there's the new handrails put up at the entrance, and that was, a big push to get those things done prior to the 150th anniversary celebration in October.
A big push from last bond into this bond is to finish up our roofing and HVAC projects. So as you see here, these are some of the ones for the past year and a half. And the ones that you show pending here are the ones that we're finishing up from this summer. So we don't have final construction costs right now, but you can see that our construction approved board costs come in, our actual costs, come in much lower than our actual board approved contract costs. So we're able to find savings, whether it's contingencies from that aren't being utilized or allowances we had for dry rot and things that we were lucky enough that we didn't need, thankfully. Here we have a little drone footage video because as my maintenance hat on, roofs and HVAC are awesome, but no one can see them except, you know, me or a few who are out there. So we thought we'd get up and take a drone up and at least give about a 1-minute view of a few of our campuses that had roofs last summer, just so that people could kind of see what all that money and didn't go quite directly into the classroom, but did go into something that protects their classroom and hopefully keeps them dry and warm. CCLA was just completed this last summer. The entire school, I think it looks great. And it's also kind of a good aerial view of our sites. I think they look quite different when you see them from up here than when you see them from the ground. And new skylights at our sites that had them. And finally, we had Brook Hill that was finished up last summer as well. And portables were not re-roofed as they are part of our plan to remove, but the main buildings were all completed, including the libraries at all of our sites to give them that fresh, new, safe, warm, and dry roof.
So we've also been doing the main gym floors, refinishing and striping at all of our secondary campuses. So Cesar Chavez Language Academy was completed over winter break and turned out great. Everybody was very excited about that. We are still finishing up at Elsie Allen, and Maria Carrillo needs some additional repair work with the volleyball, the posts for volleyball, basketball, not basketball, just badminton, volleyball. So those are still pending a little bit of work, but again, similar to the painting projects, those actual costs are pending until the projects are complete. You see some before and after. Elsie Allen is a nice one because we have the action shot in the center showing when it was being stripped down. So you can see the before, during, and after. The final, yep, Heiner, Comstock.
We are also working, of course, on our district office and education center. As you know, we're temporarily located at a leased facility. Part one of this is to build a new warehouse, as our warehouse is old and leaking. So it's being, I think there's something on the board tonight for actually phase 2 of the GMP to actually get all of the dirt work and the site work done, all the utilities. The building has been ordered. It'll be here. It's a prefab metal building. It'll house our, of course, a warehouse. It'll house IT as well as our duplicating department out here. It should be complete in January of this coming year. We are also working on our design build for the rest of the campus, which will include not only the district office, but the M&O shops, the early childhood education center, and the adult transition program. So that is out as part of an RFQ. We are qualifying firms that would like to compete for this work. And so we'll have more coming to the board in the future.
Montgomery High School 2-story building. As you know, we broke ground during spring break. And since then, we have been able to return 6 leased portables, getting rid of almost $6,000 a month in lease payments. They have completed the concrete retaining wall, which is adjacent to the creek, which was always a very concerning for people on that campus. The foundation is complete. We've done infrastructure repairs to allow to not have to do those later. We did finish a campus-wide exterior painting project there this summer. Steel erection has begun and actually is much farther along than these pictures would show. They are doing the steel stud framing walls now. So these pictures are a little bit old, but you can see our signed beam from the topping out ceremony in the photo. And I don't remember what the last thing on Montgomery slide was, but
Well,
they are,
things
they're
move
pouring,
fast,
they're
yeah.
pouring concrete on the second floor decking tomorrow morning. So things are moving very quickly. It's very encouraging to see how well that's going. And we have a whole bunch more stuff that we're working on. We are working on, at James Monroe, there is a drainage infrastructure issue in their driveway that's been ongoing, so we're looking at repairing that. Pioneer High School, the G-Wing quad, we had to remove some trees that were causing major damage, so we're looking at doing that infrastructure and the ball wall replacement. Looking at roofing upgrades at LC Allen and at Proctor Roofing and HVAC. We're going to complete exterior painting at all of our remaining campuses next summer. And the remaining gym floors. We are looking at removing 4 portables at Santa Rosa High, hopefully this fall, to clear the way for some additional civil work and infrastructure. And then the Rincon Valley well improvements are, those
They're
are coming
slated
up.
to start in 2 weeks, yeah.
In a few weeks. And then we're still working on figuring out some stuff for the Herbert Slater well, but that will also be upcoming.
So we have a few things still in design that have yet to go. But I'll just quickly move through them. Some of them are on the board for tonight. Our elementary school pilot at Abraham Lincoln, we're looking to modernize 2 rooms there. We're also looking to modernize 2 rooms at Santa Rosa High. That'll be done. We're really excited about getting teacher and stakeholder feedback on those. We're also planning all access restrooms across our secondary sites. So you can see some schematic designs here of Montgomery and Slater as the first kind of 2 we started on designing. Next slide, of course, is transitional kindergarten classrooms. We are working on developing with our architect a design we can standardize across the district to help us get rid of the old portables and bring in some new GK wonderful classrooms. And again, thank you again for having us today, and we welcome any questions or comments.
Trustee Zuniga?
Okay, so I have a question about student art. So our San Jose High School is an art school. That's what we're known for. But past few years, I've noticed that we don't have a whole lot of displayed student art. Yes, our performing arts have an auditorium that we like perform a dance and instrumental music and orchestra. But this last year, my club and I, Youth Activism, were working towards a mural project. And we were faced with backlash, and we were fought because our teachers and said that our schools, like our school site and the brick that we actually were approved to paint on through our principal and our source of funds, said that it was deemed historic, and so we actually couldn't paint on it. And we fought and talked for months about how to try and find the compromise. Eventually, we were put in our club had to find contractors to try and figure out how we could mount the actual 10 by 14 mural onto a brick wall that we were initially going to paint on. And that also received backlash because, one, the teachers didn't want to see a sheet metal drilled onto brick, but they also told us not to paint on it. So there was just a complete stop in the process. So I was wondering, how can we push forward through these blocks? And I know that my principal has said to me directly that he's willing to put a lot of effort into this because he wants to display this student expertise and really show what kind of creative community we are.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, as my wife and 3 daughters all graduated from Santa Rosa High. So yes, please have Principal Ryan reach out to me. I'll reach out to him. This is news to me. I have not heard of this yet, but I would be happy to help work around a solution for this.
Other board member questions? Trustee La Cruz?
Good question. Just so much gratitude. I remember the first time I walked through many of our sites as we were prioritizing and trying to really make sure that we were using our limited resources well. I cried at what our kids must feel when they walk into some of our spaces. And seeing what we've done, again, with those limited resources and prioritizing places that so clearly needed some love. I'm just really grateful for those outcomes. And I know that it does make a huge difference in the way kids feel about themselves and feel about the way that we see them and care about them, as well as staff and teachers and admin. So just lots of gratitude. And I'm excited to keep seeing what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. We have gotten really good feedback from staff and students as they walk onto campus for the first time. And we look forward to modernizing classrooms as well to kind of keep that same spirit happening.
Trustee La Cruz?
So my question is, Proctor got a new color. There were lots of feelings about it. So I wondered if you could share a little bit about, just the examples of where community can plug in, school community, to some of these choices and some of these, things that are new. And so may cause some reactions. But how can people plug in productively?
Yeah, so we did not choose the colors. I just want to make that very clear. No, what we did is brought in a design team to give the site about 5 different kind of color schemes based on a few factors. There are some metal that we couldn't paint or something that kind of stuck a particular color maybe at a site. So then kind of what matched with that, as well as if you want to come down and see a really fun book, you can come down to our painting shop and see the paint spec book for all the old paints. It's about this tall, this binder, just the different amounts of paint types we have across the district. So our goal was to shrink his binder down to a nice size where we didn't have to buy so much paint. So our colors of paint. So we gave the site and gave them, hey, please reach out to all your different stakeholder groups. You have plenty of time to figure out, and vote or however you want to do it, to reach out to your communities. And a lot of principals really engaged. A lot of their committees, DLAC, PTAs, children, they all kind of voted, and we were given, this is what we've decided, and that's what we picked. So we will do that again for that next round. We're actually starting to gear up with a designer to start getting those color choices so we can get them out again.
And I think that we will be providing maybe some best practices to some of the principals of at sites that really did end up with a lot of feedback versus those that maybe didn't have as much, in what, some best practices on how they can engage.
Trustee Flores?
Thank you for a very thorough and very colorful presentation. In terms of the facility budget summary that you presented in slide number 3, I believe. One, the developer fees, right? So we had a discussion, I don't know, last month or 2 months ago about developer fees. Can you talk a little bit about the decision we made then and the tie to that $8 million amount?
Yes, sorry. So the developer fees specifically are in place to be able to refresh and take care of, most importantly, new students to districts. So when you think of transitional kindergarten, that's an entirely new requirement. It will cost us, I can't even remember the dollar amount. So
$1 million a building at least, yeah, or room, excuse me, $1 million a classroom.
Per room. And so that right there, that is an entirely new set of expenses that will really be impacted with our developer fees. Also updating and refreshing for students that are coming in as far as the furniture that we had in the past that is dating back to the early 90s. in a majority of our classrooms. When you look at the special education students that we are pulling back into the district, that is another new set of students that those funds are being used for. That is also how we pay for our demographic studies. For many of the things that support the ongoing issues in our district, the developer fees, if you look at school finance and how we're able to apply for those dollars that Eric mentioned earlier, the state matching funds, we're required to have our local funds, which would be our community supported, our bonds. We are required to assess the developer fees at the highest extent to which we are allowed, which is what the board took action on. And then we can apply for hardship funding from the state if we reach that level. And so you have to have all of the aspects. If we don't do the developer fees, that wipes us out of the running from being able to apply for some of the state funding. And as Eric shared earlier, we've already identified over $50 million in applications to submit.
Over 15, I said, okay, I thought it said 10 million here.
We've applied already for 10.
Okay,
We've
got it.
identified another 50 million in projects
nice.
on that list that we
Yep.
could apply for in the
We-
future.
We can't apply for them until the grants renew. So depending on when work has been done at each of our school sites over the years through modernization.
Okay, so based on the decision that we made, because I know we received a lot of emails and there were some agencies advocating for us not to vote in terms of, having the developer fees. So in total, it would have affected not just the developer fees, but anything that we could have applied for in terms of state funding. So a total of, if I add the developer fees, which is 8 million plus the other, 10, that's 18,000. Now you said another 15,000 that has been, so it would have drastically affected our funding in terms of
Matching funds, yeah.
matching funds. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Other board questions? If not, I got questions. I saw in the much more stuff coming up, LCL and HVAC. I know one of the complaints that I received this year was people being upset that all the other high schools were being painted, but they weren't. I think I heard that there was something having to do with the roofs and the HVAC, and I'm wondering what the resolution to that was. Is that what this work is being done? And where in the timeline is their exterior painting?
Yeah, so there was summer school there last summer, which prevented us from painting there. But this upcoming summer with the roof and HVAC project, the LC will be closed for students' access. So it is part of the next round of painting for next summer with the other, I think, 8 or 9 campuses scheduled for this upcoming summer.
And while I was there for the teacher and staff luncheon, they were pointing out a bunch of I don't know about construction stuff, but they're like, look at all that dry rot up on the beams up by the roof. As we do this roofing stuff, is that type of stuff addressed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
Okay.
actually helping drive up the cost you'll see coming for this project, yes.
Okay. And you said the timeline is for being repainted over this next summer? Okay, so
Correct, yeah.
so if they want to choose new colors, they'll be doing that process kind of like they did.
Yeah, we'll bring in the color choices for the community to pick. But yeah, it takes the painters all of the full 10 weeks to paint a big school like that. And yeah, it'll take the full summer.
And in the district office and education center, I see the design build RFQ part for the early childhood education center. So for the design, it's still to be designed, right?
Correct. We're just trying to figure out what firm to partner with. That's a general contractor and architect team that will help take all of the different bridging documents we have, or we interviewed a bunch of different people in the district office and departments, as well as the cabinet, to figure out kind of what we need, as well as with the special ed department, with ECE, with M&O, and all that's in this document. So these groups, as we figure out who to partner with, will take all that information and come up with a design for this whole center.
The reason I bring it up is because I've heard a lot about child development at SRJC and how they have this amazing facility. And I'm thinking in the context of CTE, knowing that, for example, at LC Allen, they're starting a new education pathway, but maybe at other schools, there could be some sort of education pathway tied to like child development, education, that maybe in the construction of this, it could be maybe modeled and developed after whatever's at the SRJC that allows for students to learn by observing student behaviors, youth behaviors in that process. Just a thought, something to throw out. I don't know.
Okay.
Seems like wish listing, but that's my only question. I do, if Trustee Flores, did you have a question?
Not a question, just,
Okay.
I don't know, I'm gonna use the bullet puppet here. Yeah, I just want to say thank you, for the pictures here. I'm looking at LC Allen, for example. The fact that, the before and after pictures, the lines weren't visible at all. And I just want to say that, all the sports that are played are visible, showcasing that all sports are important, regardless of gender, right? I just want to say that I noticed that, all those lines are visible, unlike, my district who painted some certain lines, the color of the floor, you can actually see them. But anyway, I just want to say, I do notice those little, details. I just want to say thank you, because I think it's important for every single student athlete out there wants, to see that their sports are valued. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the drone video. That's pretty awesome. We should
Good. Good.
get that on.
I do have one public comment on this item. I'm gonna go to public comment and have Jessica Leach. Are you still here? There we go. You have 2 minutes, Jessica.
Thank you. I wanted to comment on this section because at Santa Rosa Charter School for the Arts, we have been emailing, texting, sending videos since April or May. We have a partial roof collapse on our primary elementary building where the soffits have collapsed at least 2 feet, just leaving open space for moisture, animals, all the things. And the only thing separating that from the children are those fake tile roofs. So that needs to be addressed. We have not had any response. Volunteer parents have sent videos, pictures. We've actually gotten a hold of the main maintenance person's cell phone and have texted him with no response. So we'd like to know at what point is that going to be addressed with the weather that's coming. And then Santa Rosa High, the girls' bathrooms out on the field, none of the doors lock, and all of the bathrooms are plugged except for one, and you have your first home football game coming up. So at what point is that going to be addressed? ArtQuest, it was interesting that you guys spent so much money on HVAC at Santa Rosa High, but ArtQuest had no AC for the last 2 to 3 weeks. So why does ArtQuest keep getting out of the bunch? And mainly, what is going to be done about the Santa Rosa Charter School? It's not even on the list. Your priority listed security. And again, you spoke nothing about secure and safe schools. You painted a lot, which is great. I understand the importance of that, but your schools are begging you for more secure boundaries and safe zones and are literally begging parents to volunteer to stand in the parking lots to maintain a safe boundary. So when is that part becoming a priority?
Thank you. Comes back to the board. I have no other cards. I'm gonna go with Trustee Sheffield and Trustee Flores.
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the update. And I think, as my time wanes on this board, I get a little sentimental, I'm looking ahead, with a new superintendent, a new board makeup and new perspectives. I do think that our school community needs to come to terms with what we want, what are our priorities, and how we intend to have all the things that we need. And I'm really proud of this bond. I worked really hard as a board member. I know that we had our previous superintendent, we had the bond committee, we had labor allies and the entire school community to help us get it passed. And also knowing that bond measures are not guaranteed to pass. And we had a lot of needs, and we can realistically only ask so much to get it to that threshold, to get it passed. And we did, even in times of economic uncertainty, we got this bond passed. And obviously, we all know that it's not enough. We know that we have too many needs. At the start of the school year is really when we start to hear from folks in the community about the needs. We have too much deferred maintenance. We have a whole lot of revenue, or it seems like in numbers, but really it doesn't go far enough. So I appreciate all of your work. I appreciate that we as a district are doing a lot with what we have. But I also want to say that part of me is still seething from a proposed parcel tax that never was. This is a proposal that died last spring, and it was supposed to go hand in hand with the bonds that we passed. And many of you on the board weren't on the board at the time when we started looking at bonds, the need for bonds. This goes back to, we had a parcel tax study in 2018. This was before the pandemic. And it was supposed to be a parallel tax. We worked with building trades, and this is going to 2022, and they helped us pass the bonds. We owe them a whole lot for getting those bonds passed. And we told the public at the time, I know I did. I know that everywhere I spoke, every door that I knocked, throughout the campaign, that we'd be going back to them with a campaign for a parcel tax that could bring huge benefits. The school safety investment, improving classroom technologies, enhancing curriculum like math and science and music, and attracting and retaining teachers, and maintaining small class sizes. Everything that we talk about, we only have limited resources to do it. That's the reality. We had a lot of good ideas. And last spring, when we brought it back for discussion, we faced a whole lot of vocal opposition. And I don't know what to do about that, because again, our bond dollars are only going to go so far. And like I said, I'm getting sentimental because this is, my last couple months on this board. But we work really hard to try to do what we can do, what is realistic. And when we taken up the parcel tax, that again was supposed to be a companion, we just saw lack of support. We saw lack of confidence from people in our school community, and it died because stakeholders who otherwise should have been there to be our biggest supporters, they told us that they weren't on board. So we have our bonds and we do what we can do with them. And again, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the work that we do. I love these updates. We did our part in getting them passed. I guess my message is I encourage everyone to pay close attention to these regular updates, to monitor the current progress, to give us that feedback, to tell us when there's something that needs attention at a school site, to engage throughout the process, and to be participatory throughout the process so we're not reactionary at the end. And you know what I mean? Because again, the start of the school year is when we start hearing people, come to us. And then lastly, I'm just going to say it, for the sake of our schools, I hope that there will be a reconsideration, maybe not too far down the road, for another parcel tax study. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Trustee Sheffield. Trustee Flores.
I was not going to mention anything about the parcel tax, but I'm just going to say that I was very disappointed that we weren't able to do that this last time, because that could have been another revenue to ensure that we attract and retain our staff, right? So I do hope that we can work in tandem with our, allies and partners to ensure that we have the funding that we need to ensure equitable and, to ensure access to funds that could help us attain the things that we wanted to do. So, but I am disappointed that didn't happen, and I do hope that the new board takes that into account. I wanted to come back to, there was a question from the audience here, Jessica, I think it was. Again, thank you again. We're not supposed to address those questions directly, but where is not the charter school, but the Santa Rosa High School. I see Santa Rosa High School, but what? Oh my God. No, oh my God. I mean, our art school, Art Quest, Jesus Christ, Art Quest, a friend who works there. So where is Art Quest in terms of Santa Rosa High? Is it tied with Santa Rosa High School, or, and how do we ensure that Art Quest is also getting the roofing and HVAC?
Yeah, it did this last summer, part of phase 3 of Santa Rosa High. It's such a big school. It took 3 full summers to get it done. So yeah, ArtQuest is complete, and ArtQuest is in the master plan. I think it's definitely in there. We spent some time with the ArtQuest folks as part of our master planning committee. I believe maybe 3 or 4 meetings. It was quite a lot with them. So they're represented in the master plan for sure.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask that, and I know it's part of Santa Rosa High School, right? But it seems like, it used to be one of the biggest magnets that we had here in Santa Rosa City Schools, right? It could also be that yet again, but I like to see it also, delineated in our reports, because it feels like the ugly stepchild at this moment, and I think the teachers there are feeling that way as well. I just want to make sure that we don't forget that ArtQuest is also one of those programs that has attracted an ADA to our district. And then the partial collapse in Santa Rosa Charter School of the Arts. Can we follow up on that?
Yeah, I'm recalling something with my maintenance manager about a year ago. There was some vandalism up on that roof. It was a portable, old, where they had kicked in part of the eave. But I'll have to follow up because I can't recall, because it has been a little while. I know we worked through the insurance company to get those repairs done. So I don't have a direct answer for you at this time.
Okay.
We'll be following up, and if we can actually get information from our commenter, we'll follow up with
Right,
her.
I mean, Jessica will be emailing for sure.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you,
Absolutely.
Jessica. And the bathrooms at Santa Rosa High School, the girls' bathrooms, they're unfortunately not able to lock. Can we look into that as well? I mean, especially since
Which one? There's a few. But no, I don't know about that, but I'd be happy to look into it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I think Lisa wanted to say something. Oh.
I just wanted to also touch base for a moment, but back to our student board member, Zuniga. We did actually receive at the cabinet level the request for the mural, and wanted to let you know that was approved. So we will work through the details of how to move that forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a big picture question about, when we see these kinds of things as parents or staff, can we all just revisit the process by which we go reporting them? And then what is the expectation in terms of the timing and understanding, like the prioritization and what we can expect, both for ourselves as, stakeholders in the school community, but for folks who have to deal with this every day?
Sure. Yeah. we should report it to the school or the office, and they can, typically we either, if it's a safety, we usually get a call or a direct email, something that'll get us there much quicker. Otherwise, they usually put in a school due ticket, a maintenance tech ticket, and then that is sent out to one of our maintenance techs to get this item, whatever that is, repaired. And depending on the number of items that are, we start with our priority of safety first. So as we get through those, we might get to something a little less safety issued next. So depending on what the maintenance ticket is for, it could take up to a week if it's a pretty low priority.
And is there a way for people at school sites or in the community to see kind of the process that the ticket is taking through the system and whether or not it's been assigned a priority level or anything? Like, how do people track where it is in the process?
Yeah, whoever put in the ticket gets messages as well as when it's been assigned, when it's been prioritized, when it's been finished, what that solution was, and that it's complete.
The other question that I have is, also hearing from teachers about HVAC systems, even with some of our new HVAC systems being in place, not working, right? So classrooms that are at 95 degrees during the first couple of days of school, making it really hard to focus. And so I know folks are also filing Williams Act complaints, for example, right? That just challenging our basic kind of ability to be able to learn. Is that, is there an impact overall to our district? The more Williams Act complaints that we have filed, is there like, how do we kind of balance the space between really upping the prioritization of those things that do challenge our kids' ability to learn inside of our systems and making sure that folks, again, have that kind of transparency to how their concerns are getting addressed?
Sure. Yeah, so HVAC is a fun one when we start the school year with it being so hot, right? So I had an actual great conversation with a few teachers at Helen Lehman, which is one of our schools that just got completed with new roof and HVAC, and they were complaining about, it's hot in my room. So we talked a little bit about how HVAC works, and because this little misnomer of I keep hitting the down button, it's not getting colder. Well, it runs at, when you hit the air conditioning on it, sends cold air at one temperature, no matter how low you'd set it. It has one temperature of cool. It also needs to bring in fresh air. And so when you can imagine it pulling in 95-degree outside air into that little tiny unit and then pushing it through the vent, that air that should be coming out at 50 degrees is coming in 75. And as those little ones come running in from the outside from playing, and it just helps heat that room up. And it is hard for that to keep up with that classroom when it's that hot. Our systems are designed to really operate best between the 60 to 75 degree outside air range. You will always get nice warm air or cool air depending, but as the temperature changes above these high or very low, same if it's 30 degrees outside in the morning, it's going to have a hard time heating that same outside air. So we bring in that fresh air because it's the California law to help with CO2 in the classroom. So that fan has to run from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. during occupied time. So it's constantly getting either hot or cold air, depending on the outside air, and then it's trying to keep up with the setting in the room. So it's really hard to keep up with the classroom when temperatures are too high or too low. I hope that helps a little bit.
We're all getting a lot hotter every year.
Yes,
So
it's not helping.
it's a little concerning to hear that this is a new system that is going to struggle with increasing temperatures.
And they are, in the case of Lehman, for example, with the teachers I talked to, they wanted their old system back as it seemed to work better. And that was because the old system didn't mix outside air for CO2, right? So they mixed recycled air from the room. So it's already cooler air and they're cooling it. So it cools down faster. So it's a catch-22.
Just to clarify, it has to be outside air, or is it just the oxygen that we need? Okay.
Yeah, we need
Outside air.
a requirement of fresh air, right? So it has to come from the outside.
Can we redefine fresh? But, my concern right now is, having listened to the parent Jessica speak, is there maybe a breakdown in the process where y'all aren't getting information I know we've seen in the past breakdowns in information being sent from the site to the district and things not happening. Could we look into that is my ask? Because I think that's something important to address. The other part, Trustee De La Cruz brought up Williams Act complaints. Could you briefly explain what a Williams Act complaint is and our family's rights to file them and what it means in terms of holding us accountable?
Absolutely. So a couple things. One, as far as our process, if somebody is not receiving that feedback, they're not getting a response, it should be elevated to Mr. Harden, the maintenance supervisor first. If he has not responded, then they should be reaching out to Eric Oden. And if he's not responding, then it should come to me. And we're happy to follow up on those if I receive that information. If somebody's not getting a response, please go ahead and send it, and we'll follow up and find out where that breakdown has been, because that shouldn't be the case. The other piece of that with the Williams complaint, there are certain instances for parents or staff or students to make complaints, and it's called the uniform complaint process through the Williams Act. It has to do with textbooks, with teacher credentialing, with facilities and access. So lots of different things. It's actually delineated in our board policy online. If anybody has a question, they can go there or they can reach out, and I'm happy to share information to provide that form. And there are timelines in there for it to be investigated. Typically, that would start at the school site where the complaint is submitted. I will share that I have not seen one escalated yet for this year. We did have 2 last year at one of our sites, and those have been addressed through the work that we did this summer. We had expected to only be able to partially address them right away. We actually, through some expanded scope at Montgomery, were able to address the issue in its entirety. So those are things that we look into and respond back. We have, state mandated timelines on that. So if somebody's not able to find that information, they're welcome to reach out to any of us at the district office. We'll be happy to walk them through it.
I guess one of the questions that I have, while, it wouldn't look good on the district necessarily to have more complaints, but I hear a lot of complaints and they're not necessarily reflected in the quarterly Williams Act reports that we receive. So I'm wondering, in terms of our protocols, when people make complaints, do we inform them of their right to make the complaint and maybe provide them a link? And if not, personally, I think we should, just so that I think it's important for people to know their rights. And it also is a mechanism for holding us accountable and simultaneously being more transparent with the public. So I just wanted to add that.
The practice would be, our practice typically has been to try to resolve a complaint as early as possible. So likely you aren't seeing a lot of those coming through that process because they're actually being addressed before they hit the level of not being responded to. So if they're actually being taken care of early, we wouldn't be seeing those reflected in the formal complaint process. It would be resolved when they reach out to the principal or to Mr. Oden's staff. But we certainly have those documents posted. We're happy to share them out more readily as well.
Thank you. Board members, any other questions?
Yeah, regarding the Williams case, do we get an update regarding how many have been filed? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I remember seeing a few of them here.
Yes, they do come quarterly. We're required to bring them to the board as a quarterly report as far as what's received and the information related to that. I'm sorry, I will say that those don't funnel through me, so we would have to get information back to you, but I can certainly, we can do that through our team.
They're usually attached as information items quarterly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board? If not, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's see, now we will move on to our final F item, item F4. This is an action item on the updated San Jose City Schools organizational chart. And for this, I'll pass it on to Superintendent Dr. Daisy Morales.
Thank you, President Medina and Board of Trustees, our community that is here and listening to us. I'm bringing forth the organizational chart for this year. This was handed to me by Superintendent Trinnell. She did the bulk of the work, so I want to make sure and give her credit. And she explained the process of how she came through with it with her team. So I will walk you through the new org chart, which I wholeheartedly agree with. But again, the bulk of the work was done by Superintendent Trinnell. And so in terms of our big organizational chart, with students at the top, that's who we serve. That's who we're here to make sure that they get a quality education, a well-rounded education, as well as providing places of belonging and where kids feel safe. Each layer is a foundation that supports our students. So our parents are interacting with our schools, and the departments within the district office are there to support the schools and the parents. The superintendent and myself will hold all of it together as I take the information that is set forth in terms of policy and expectations from the Board of Trustees to ensure that all of our layers of support are all in place to be able to give students what they need and ensuring that they're well served and well known. In terms of our structure internally, our cabinet is made up of our 3 assistant soups, as well as our executive director of special services and our executive director of wellness and engagement, with Melanie Martin being my executive assistant. And then each department, through each of the slides, you will see the business department, Lisa August as associate superintendent and chief business officer, and the people that report to her within the fiscal services, information evaluation, purchasing, child nutrition, director of technology, executive director of technology, maintenance and operations, and progressively each of those departments and the people that serve within those smaller departments. Purchasing as well, and the warehouse, we have our director of purchasing and her team, as well as the fiscal executive director and his team. Technology, the executive director of technology and the team that serves in that department servicing all of students. Business department in terms of nutrition services, or our child nutrition and all of the food provided to all of our students district-wide. Information and evaluation, providing all of the data that we need for all of the numerous reports that the district puts together for the state. Special services, with all of the myriad of special services that are provided to students in special education, and the supports that those students need specifically. Wellness and engagement, providing student services supports around mental health, as well as our family and engagement staff and initiatives. Educational services, our assistant superintendent, our executive directors and directors that provide support to our principals and our schools. They're the ones that are regularly on campus supporting all of our principals. In terms of teaching and learning, we have our 2 executive directors with directors and coordinators that provide services around teaching and learning. So assessment, report cards, A through G, all components of teaching and learning. Our multilingual services and our EL TOSAs and our EL specialists that provide student supports for our newcomers, or for our students that are learning English, ensuring that they get the supports that they need to get reclassified. And human resources with our assistant soup and our directors, our HR technicians, as well as recruiting and substitute and all of the other positions within HR. And that is the last department.
I did have a, I guess, feedback suggestion, I think on the main slide where the students at the top.
Yes.
When I first saw it, the immediate thought that I had was, how can we, or should we connect students down to, with like a big line down to the student board member?
Oh, okay.
There should be a little connection there. Just my thought.
Okay.
unless our student board member disagrees.
Mhm.
The other thing, I thought I recall recently hearing of a position that was like a college and career something,
Yes,
and I'm wondering
Ed
where
Services.
is that? And I don't know if I missed
I will
it.
find it for you. Give me a minute. Um, Up, slide 13. Director of CTE.
Okay, so it's CTE. Okay. That's what it's called. Okay. Board questions, comments? None. So I guess the question would be, because this is an action item, would you be okay with that change to with the student, little line?
From the students to the student board member. That's a good idea. I know, to take a Sharpie. I will go ahead and
Um,
add it.
So I do see one comment card. I'm not sure if the commenter's still here. Adina Flores. No, I think she's gone. Okay. Um, Back to the board for discussion or comment or motion.
I'll move to approve. How's that?
Move. So just to clarify, move to approve with the change,
With the change, yes.
and you accept that? All right, so moved by trustee Flores, seconded by trustee Sheffield. If there's no further discussion, to the vote, please.
Well, can I just say
Yeah.
something too? Obviously, we have a robust system, chart, right? So I'm trying to remember when we have reports from the different departments. I just want to make sure that, and then sometimes we've had to move the reports to a different board meeting. You know that, we meet ahead of time to ensure that, the board agenda, it's set up and all this, right? So I just want to make sure that, we keep fidelity to that in terms of reports. So reports are ready for the board to see them, right? And if there are changes, this is just a little pet peeve of mine. I try to read them ahead of time, right? And then I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but it's important that, we have those. And whenever I have a board or a report that I have to see, right, at all, right? And I've been told that it'll be in the minutes. I don't particularly appreciate that. I just want to make sure I have the time to review it and ask questions ahead of time. And then it looks like we have the staff to do this, right? So I think it's an expectation that we have those reports done ahead of time. If not, and I'm sure the audience and the voters feel the same way, that they need access to that sort of information. I just want to say, that.
Sure. And then we're also going to take a look with both you and President Medina, that there are some departments listed that don't bring a report to the board that I think should be added. So we're going to take a holistic look at the reports that are brought to the board, because some departments do it and others don't. So we want to bring all department reports to the board. So we'll be discussing that with both of you.
Okay, I appreciate that, actually. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, let's go to the vote.
Student Board Member Zuniga,
Aye.
Trustee Flores,
Aye.
Trustee Sheffield,
Aye.
Trustee De La Cruz,
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre,
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. Thank you. I will now move on to our consent items. Could I get a motion on items G1 through G14?
Move approval of items G1 through G14.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by trustee Sheffield, seconded by trustee De La Cruz. To the vote, please.
Student Board Member Zuniga,
Aye.
Trustee Sheffield,
Aye.
Trustee De La Cruz,
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre,
Aye.
Trustee Flores,
Aye.
President Medina.
Aye. And moving on to H items, H1, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting held on August 14th.
Move approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting held on August 14th.
Second?
Moved by trustee Sheffield, seconded by trustee La Cruz. To the vote, please.
Student Board Member Zuniga,
A.
Trustee Sheffield.
Aye.
Trustee De La Cruz,
Aye.
Trustee De La Torre,
Aye.
Trustee Flores,
A.
President Medina.
Oh, hey. My bad. Moving on to I items, board member requests for information. Is there any request, board? Trustee Flores?
I'd like to formally request what I asked before to ensure that we have, reports ahead of time, and if that's not available, to, not report on something we haven't seen, right? That was intended to, with the superintendent's request to have department reports, well, to have reports from all the departments, not just a select few. Thank you.
Thank you. Other board member requests? Seeing none, I just want to let everybody know there's information items attached, future board discussion items, our conduct code of ethics, educational acronyms, specifically this meeting, the SCO letter on the third interim. And then the start of the year enrollment and attendance data, which is very informative and concerning. Any last things to add, Superintendent?
Just like I mentioned, we're looking to add additional reports for each of the departments that haven't necessarily given reports before. So we'll be plugging those in and spreading them throughout the year so they're not all in one night, because if not, we'll be here till tomorrow, till the following day. So, but other than that, no, we'll continue with what we have projected.
Thank you. And with that, meeting adjourned 9:05.